All right. I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, got a confirmation from the chat. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 496. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit the notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust crew and those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. There'll be a link in the chat for you to click on if you want to engage in discussion. Just raise your hand when you click on the link so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Let me give a shout out to the people in the chat who showed up first. Ronin Black, peace. Dark Side 90, peace. Keep it techie, peace. Let me get the link for the chat. We can get started.
Yeah, where my Shaolin people's at? Stapleton, the craziest, I know what time it is. Wild, Wild West, now born, Killer Hill, Port to the Richmond, Jungle Nails. Let's get money, y'all. It be the Sassa Hennessy that make me act like this. I'm where I hit them up, projects now never played the fifth. Regardless to the charges, chicken heads to be at court, fighting and slicing each other to see who lies in my fort. Who would have thought? Little shy, big Willie, 96 we rolling Dutchess. Not Trey, it was Phillies. First in the month be like Christmas, the dealers. $100 sales come through the school zone area. Children that play, keep the heat on the low. Little kids getting hit, project flooded with Poe. Now shorty's rocking Versace and Donna Karen, playing the Miss Mom Queen Road, knowing her and cousin Sharon. I live the glamorous life, girl. The coat, the limo, the Dawn, Prairie on, rich hotel. Yeah, Shaolin, Queens Bridge Connection, 5 boroughs, Rocktown, Ricky Bronx, Queens, mid to the Hatton. Facing 2 5 life, incarcerated, aggravated. Trapped behind the cell with no way to escape and holding on. Through the oxtail, try to appeal. Remanded without a bail, so let the commissary bill. I feel it's time for me to let the sparkling wine wet my throat, rocking the trench coat, flashing to get mine. No hesitant, cause the handy keeps me bent. Just trying to make a cent, digging pockets down to the lint. Regardless of all the charges, the D's want me for. Warrant after warrant, so I avoid the law. Stapleton on the rise, 27 where it lies. From day one till day none, don't take it as no surprise. How we do it, y'all? Killer game, where you at? Red one, Big Kill, Bogey, we up, y'all? Represent, y'all, represent. I'm having suicidal thoughts cause I'm screwed up in the game. But today's aim is to hold it down and maintain. I got 30 days until I get remanded for this gun charge. Still I'm living large, join hard up in the morning law section. This your repeat model. I'm young, black, rich and dangerous. Living like I won the lotto. Too enough for wine, sets and Dutchess. The kids know who us is. GP Woo, under 27 hustlers. Running from D's when they try to bust us. 5 grills and gas. Mainly black cops, they whitey lovers. And my district attorneys want to send me to jail. I told them people want to kill me. That's why I had the 9 milli. I busted dead, not to injure. Remember when I quote before you into my center. Word up. The lost generation. Word up. 49. 27 clips. Real too small.
everyone who showed up in the chat. Again, Rain and Woman, good evening to you. Engineering Cannabis, Nate, peace. Let's get started because I think we are a bit late. All right, first item on the docket is from Popular Mechanics. Uranus, no joke, is leaking gas. They had a big lunch. Expand this out. Scientists have discovered something strange lurking in a 34-year-old batch of data from the Voyager 2 mission, a plasmoid. Plasmoids are globs of ionized gases pulled from a celestial body's atmosphere. These bursts of atmospheric material are flung away from a planet by its magnetic field. This is the first time a plasmoid has been recorded at Uranus, though, and the discovery has revealed a lot about the mysterious planet. Space physicist Gina Di Prezioso and Dan Gershman of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center were poring over Voyager data when they discovered an ionized hydrogen-filled plasmoid measuring roughly 127,000 miles by 250,000 miles. The scientists published their findings last year in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. Atmospheric escape, as it's often called, is a common occurrence on other planets. Ionized hydrogen is slowly slipping off of Venus' surface, and atmospheric loss has been observed on Saturn too. And then there's Earth, which leaks roughly 90 tons of atmospheric material each year. We still have plenty of atmosphere left, about 5,140 trillion tons. Some of the moons in our solar system are leaking too. Scientists have observed atmospheric loss on both Titan 1 and Lo 2. Magnetic fields serve an important purpose. They protect a planet's atmosphere from the solar winds that carry harmful radiation. These strong solar winds can stretch a planet's magnetic field, creating an abnormally named magnetotail along the trailing side of a planetary body. In the case of Earth's donut-shaped magnetosphere, this tail pinches close. But Uranus is a different beast entirely. The structure, the way that moves, de Broglie said, Uranus is really on its own. First, the planet is tipped over on its side. The axis of Uranus' magnetosphere is also 60 degrees off its spin axis, creating a significant wobble in its magnetic field. Finally, some research has suggested that Uranus' magnetosphere may be seasonal, meaning it opens and closes with the changing seasons. There's a lot more we need to learn about the planet's magnetic field. We've said it before and we'll say it again. We really love to see Uranus. So I guess this is the Voyager's data in visualization. It's a GIF, basically. I do think that's pretty interesting. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this other than there's a lot of data that planets hold that has yet to be discovered, and that's where data science comes in. You need data scientists that can collect all this data from the satellites and the the rovers and other devices that go up there to measure it. You need a data scientist that can actually make sense of a lot of this data that's coming out. Who knows how long this has been going on for? All right, let me get to the next item on the docket. All right, next item on the docket is from fastcompany.com, the untold origin story of the N95 mask. The most important design object of our time was more than a century in the making. Let me see, expand this out. It's hard to think of a symbol of COVID-19 more fraught than the N95 respirator. The mask fit tightly around the face and is capable of filtering 95% of airborne particles such as viruses from the air, which other protective equipment can't do. It's a life-saving device that is now in dangerously short supply. As such, it has come to represent the extreme challenges of the global response to COVID-19. How did a flimsy polymer cup become the most significant health device of the 21st century? It all started in 1910 with a little-known doctor who wanted to save the world from one of the worst disasters ever known. Going back even further, long before we understood that bacteria and viruses could float through the air and make us sick, people improvised masks to cover their faces, says Christos Linteris. Linteris is a senior lecturer at the Department of Social Anthropology at the University of St. Andrews, who is an expert in medical mask history. He points to Renaissance era paintings where people covered their noses with handkerchiefs to avoid illnesses. There are even paintings from Marseilles in 1720, which was the epicenter of the bubonic plague, that show gravediggers and people handing bodies with cloth around their faces, even though the plague was spread by the bites of fleas that traveled on rats. It was not meant to be against the contagion, says Lateris of the practice. The reason these people were wearing cloth around their mouths and noses was, at the time, they generally believed diseases like the plague were masama, or gases emanating from the ground. It wasn't to protect you from another person. They believed plague was in the atmosphere, corrupt air. The theory of masma is what drove the design of the infamous plague mask seen across Europe in the 1600s, which would be worn by doctors who identified the plague and marked the infected by tapping them with a stick. These elongated masks resembled large bird beaks and had two nostril ports at the edge of the mask that could be loaded with incense. People thought that by protecting themselves from the smell of the plague, they'd be protected from the plague itself. The stench causes disease. This thought continued all the way to the early 19th century, says Linteris. It's worth noting that 200 years later, a French physician named Antoine Barthélemy Clot-Bay argued that the bird-like plague masks themselves were responsible for the spread of the plague because they made people scared, and frightened body was at greater risk for disease. By the late 1870s, scientists learned about bacteria. Masma fell from fashion as the modern field of microbiology emerged. And yet, what came next looked a whole lot like what came before, minus the creepy birds. We often think of scientific paradigm shifts leading to breaks, but all the technologies used against germs by the end of the 19th century were rifts of technologies from Masma. Doctors started wearing the first surgical mask in 1897. They weren't much more than a glorified handkerchief around one's face, and they weren't designed to filter airborne disease. That's still not the point of surgical masks today. They were used to prevent doctors from coughing or sneezing droplets onto wounds during surgery. This distinction between a mask and a respirator is important. It's why healthcare professionals are upset that they are being instructed to wear surgical masks. when respirators are unavailable. Masks are not only made of different materials, they fit loosely on the face so that particles can come in from the sides. Respirators create an airtight seal so they actually filter inhalation. The first modern respirator is born from plague and racism. Interesting. In the fall of 1910, a plague broke out across Manchuria, what we know now as northern China, which was broken up in politically complex jurisdictions shared between China and Russia. It's apocalyptic, unbelievable. It kills 100% of those infected. No one survives, and it kills them within 24 to 48 hours of the first symptoms, says Linteris. No one has come across something like this in modern times, and it is similar to the descriptions of Black Death. What followed was a scientific arms race to deduce what was causing the plague and stop it. Both Russia and China want to prove themselves worthy and scientific enough, because that would lead to a claim of sovereignty, says Linteris. Whomever is scientific enough should be given control of this rich and important area. The Chinese imperial court brought in a doctor named Lin Te Wu to head its efforts. He was born in Penang and studied medicine at Cambridge. Wu was young and he spoke lousy Mandarin. In a plague that quickly attracted international attention and doctors from around the world, he was completely unimportant, according to Linteris. But after conducting an autopsy on one of the victims, Wu determined that the plague was not spread by fleas, as many suspected, but through air. Expanding upon the surgery mask he seen in the West, Wu developed a hardier mask from gauze and cotton, which wrapped securely around one's face and added several layers of cloth to filter inhalations. His invention was a breakthrough, but some doctors still doubted its efficacy. There's a famous incident. He's confronted by a famous old hand in the region, a French doctor. And Wu explains to the French doctor his theory that plague is pneumonic and airborne. Linteris says, and the French guy humiliates him and in very racist terms says, what can we expect from a Chinaman? And to prove this point, goes and attends the sick in a plague without wearing Wu's mask, and he dies in 2 days with plague. Other doctors in the region quickly developed their own masks. Some are completely strange things. Linteris says, hoods with glasses, like diving mask. But Wu's mask won out because in empirical testing, it protected users from bacteria. According to Linteris, it was also a great design. It could be constructed by hand out of materials that were cheap and in ready supply. Between January and February of 1911, mask production ramped up to unknown numbers. Medical staff wore them, soldiers wore them, and some everyday people wore them too. Not only did that help thwart the spread of the plague, the mask became a symbol of modern medical science looking an epidemic right in the eye. Wu's mask quickly became an icon through international newspaper reports. The mask was a very novel thing. It had an effect of strangeness, which the press loved, but you imagine a black and white photograph with a white mask. It reads well, says Linteris. It's a marketing success. When the Spanish flu arrived in 1918, Wu's mask was well known among scientists and even much of the public. Companies around the globe increased production of similar masks to help abate the spread of the flu. The N95 mask is a descendant of Wu's design. Through World War I and World War II, scientists invented air filtering gas masks that wrapped around your entire head to clean the air supply. Similar masks loaded with fiberglass filters began to be used in the mining industry to prevent black lung. All the respirators were these giant gas mask looking things, says Nikki McCullough, an occupational health and safety leader at 3M, which manufactures N95 respirators. You'd wash them out at night and you could wear them again. The equipment saved lives, but it was burdensome, and a large reason why were the filters. I don't know why they're spelled that way or why it's structured that way. The fiberglass required a lot of effort to breathe, and the full head enclosures were hard to wear. But by the 1950s, scientists began to understand the dangers of inhaling asbestos, but people working with asbestos preferred not to wear bulky respirator masks. Imagine working in a construction in 85-degree heat and having your head wrapped in rubber to protect yourself from an invisible threat. Around the same time, a former decor editor for House Beautiful magazine named Sarah Little Turnbull began consulting with the 3M's gift wrap division to make stiff ribbons. The company had developed a technology to take melted polymer and air blast it into a fabric of tiny fibers. Turnbull realized a greater potential for this process, though, and she began experimenting with the material for shoulder pads. Leveraging connections in the fashion industry for advice, then in 1958, she gave a presentation at GM simply titled Why, which explained why 3M should go into the business of non-woven products in a bigger way. She presented over 100 product ideas for the technology and was assigned to design a molded bra. Interesting. But the late 50s were tough for Turnbull, who spent a lot of time visiting sick family members in hospitals where she lost 3 loved ones in quick succession. And out of that grief came a new invention, a bubble surgical mask that 3M released in 1961 that, yes, takes its inspiration from the cup of a bra. When 3M learned it couldn't block pathogens, the mask was rebranded as a dust mask. Interesting. Of course, it was hard to build standards around something that didn't even exist yet. For medicine or workplace safety, by the 1970s, the Bureau of Mines and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health teamed up on creating the first criteria for what they called single-use respirators. The first single-use N95 dust respirator, as we know it, was developed by 3M and approved on May 25th, 1972. Turnbull herself consulted on this line into the 1980s, and for many of the corporate clients, including General Mills, Ford, Corning, and Revlon. Instead of fiberglass, the company repurposed that technology it had developed for making stiffer gift ribbons into a proper filter. Under a microscope, they look like somebody dropped a bunch of sticks and they have a huge spaces between them, says McCollum. As particles, whether silica or viruses, fly into the maze of the sticks, they get stuck making turns. 3M also added an electrostatic charge to the material, so even smaller particles find themselves pulled towards the fibers. Meanwhile, because there are so many big holes, breathing is easy. Interesting. The longer you wear an N95 respirator, the more efficient it becomes at filtering out particles. More particles just help filter more particles. But breathing becomes more difficult over time as those gaping holes between the fibers get clogged up with particles, which is why an N95 respirator can't be worn for more than about 8 hours at a time in a very dusty environment. It doesn't stop filtering, it just prevents you from breathing comfortably. N95 respirators were used in industrial applications for decades before the need for a respirator circled back to clinical settings in the 1990s. With the rise of drug-resistant tuberculosis, HIV had a lot to do with its spread across immunocompromised patients, but tuberculosis infected many healthcare workers too. To stop its airborne spread, N95 standards were updated for healthcare settings, and doctors began wearing them when helping tuberculosis patients. Even still, respirators are rarely used in hospitals to this day because it's only outbreaks like COVID-19 that necessitate so much protection. As Lanteris and many others pointed out, the respirator never really faded from significance in China. Wu went to found China's version of the CDC, narrowly winning a Nobel Prize, and can be featured in many biographies. More recently, during the SARS outbreak, people in China wore facial protection to prevent the spread of the illness. Then, as pollution took over cities like Beijing, they wore respirators to filter pollution out. The N95 respirator isn't perfect. It isn't designed to seal well to the face or of children or those with facial hair. And if it doesn't seal, it doesn't work as advertised. Furthermore, the N95 variants that are worn in high-risk operating rooms don't have an exhalation valve, so they can get particularly hot to wear. But the N95 respirator evolved over hundreds of years in response to multiple crises. That evolution will only continue through and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. McCullough says that 3M is constantly reevaluating the N95 respirator, tweaking everything from its filters to its ergonomics. My mom would say they look pretty much the same as in 1972, but we want them to look simple so they are easy and intuitive to use. So, that's the backstory on the N95 mask, which is something I learned just now. I didn't know anything about it to the extent that they're talking about it now. And so, I saw some very interesting innovations from people. I guess that's what you would call them, where people were using tampons, or not tampons, but what do you call those things? A pad, basically a pad for your menstruation. And they put some rubber bands around it and use it as a mask. I don't know how effective that is. I would hope that it was brand new when they use it and not used. It could be very interesting to see how that works. Point that I'm making here is this. You're definitely going to have some innovation come out of all of this. Somebody like Complex Design, who rants about hemp a lot. Imagine if you had a hemp-based mask. Who knows how much that can filter out? I'm not an engineer in this area, so I can't really refer to it, because that's the sort of things that we can actually be evolving in terms of the design of mask development. We can get into technology and biotech at some point. Yeah, J.R. Andre says MaxiPad. Yeah, I guess that's what they call it. Mm-hmm. So this is very interesting stuff, man. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. All right, let me all right, this is the wrong article. I don't know why it's ended up on the docket. All right. This one is from Engadget.com. U.S. Space Force will send its first Space Force into space today. Today. The U.S. Space Force will kick off its first national security mission this afternoon. It's sending a Lockheed Martin Advanced Extremely High Frequency satellite into orbit on board a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket. The satellite will provide next-gen military communications, and it could prove that Space Force isn't just a Trump administration pipe dream. The launch is an important milestone for Space Force, the sixth branch of the military formed as a Trump administration directive. Until now, the agency has mostly just laid out plans, asked for funding, released a Star Trek-esque logo, and inspired a Netflix comedy series starring Steve Carell. The AEHF-6 satellite will provide vastly improved global survivable protected communications capabilities for strategic command and tactical warfighters operating on the ground, sea, and air platforms. Lockheed Martin wrote on its website, it will circle about 22,000 miles above the Earth, and it will serve international partners, including Canada, the Netherlands, and the UK. The rocket and satellite will launch from Florida's Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. And live stream will begin today at 2:37 p.m. This already happened. So this is very interesting. So I think, and I could be wrong about this, that there's an agreement that you're not supposed to militarize space. That doesn't seem to stop the United States. And I'm pretty sure that China and Russia already have their plans. If they haven't already done so, they have already drawn up plans to do the same thing to counter. No one wants to see their satellite fall from space due to global conflict or through terrorism. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're getting to this point. There's a lot of satellites up there. There's a lot of moving pieces going on. There's a lot of spying going on. And there's a lot of urgency to try to get to Mars and build something up there before the next person does. There's also a lot of ambitions about going to the moon. And so people are playing, well, I shouldn't say people, but nation states are playing a strategic role in how they colonize places without actually using the term colonization in space, which you're not supposed to do. I believe a lot of these countries have already signed on to this. We already saw last year that India was able to shoot down a satellite and cause a lot of debris to be splattered about, had the space station concerned, International Space Station concerned about pieces, fragments flying into it. We know that France is worried about satellites being tampered with. We saw the United Arab Emirates last year have a satellite that just came off the ground actually fall right back out of space and fall into the ground. They don't even know what happened. At least they're not releasing the details behind that. A lot of espionage. We don't know if Turkey may have shot it down, as they are not friends with UAE at all due to political differences. And so space has become a crowded place for many of the G20 members. And you can probably expand it even more. I would say that North Korea, operating as a space startup, can actually intercept devices in space too, maybe lower Earth orbit, but not higher into space, like 22,000 miles up. That's pretty high up. So I don't know. You know, this is a turning point for many people in the tech industry, because what would have cost you billions of dollars to get into before, now you're talking a couple $100,000. You can actually start piggybacking rides on different launch missions to get your satellite into space and to carry out a mission. And the first person on the panel is Dr. D.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my brother. What's going on?
All right. Do you hear any static in the background or anything?
No, sir.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to come on and I saw your email, man, and I wanted to see what was going on.
All right. All right. I don't know how much you've heard so far.
Well, about 2 years ago, have you ever been down to Kennedy Space Center?
I have not.
Oh God, anybody that's listening, you should go to Kennedy Space Center. We went the summer of 2018 when they were building the SpaceX platform, and they take you on the actual tour of Kennedy Space Center. I was like a little kid down there. They had actual astronauts down there. It's something, you get the time once this coronavirus stuff ceases, you should go take a look at it. It is incredible.
I got to do that. That's one of my goals for domestic travel is to go to some of these places. One of the reasons why we have space and technology as one of our podcasts is because I actually attended the Museum of Science here in Boston, and I ended up going to the James Webb space planetary space exhibit, and they had this amazing sort of this setup where you can actually the seats are kind of tilted up, and then they have this sort of dome on top. It's a planetarium exhibit, and it's almost like you're sitting in a spaceship, and you're looking up. They have it all set up. But anyways, the point that I'm making here is that I attended one of those exhibits on my own, and I came back and I shared it with the brothers, and they agreed that this is something that we should actually look forward to, because I had no idea that many Black people work for NASA and help create most of these satellites that are in space right now. Had no idea about that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't get talked about.
Yeah, it's very cool to go see. I actually tried, I know it's a part of the government. I actually was trying to find jobs in the US Space Force, but was trying to actively get ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah. Was there nothing up there, or was there nothing of your particular liking?
Well, I think you have to be in the Air Force. It's if I'm correct, you have to be in the military. Like NASA and some of the other government entities have civilian jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any yet, but a lot of people were, laughing at this and saying, "Oh, Trump creating Space Force." I said, "Man, that's just another way to get money in my pocket." And that kind of experience on your resume is very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I look at everything. I look at the bright side of everything. If I can get into the Space Force and get money and also use my talents to make things better, I'm definitely going to try to do it, just to branch out and try to see what I can do.
Which branch were you in?
Oh, I've never was in the military.
Okay.
I worked for the Department of Defense, the contractor. I got to see a lot of highly classified things. So I was telling everybody that last night, if you get the opportunity and to get to work for the Department of Defense or any entity, it's a cool thing to have on your resume. Because when you go to job interviews, people don't talk about nothing else. They're like, "Tell me about this." I'm like, I can't tell you about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You already signed agreements.
Yep. So it's pretty cool. I just think there's going to be a lot that comes out of this pandemic. I know I'm 35. I remember when 9/11 happened. I was a senior in high school in September 2001, and we all know that changed the world. When Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, it changed how things were done. When the recession happened in 2008, there were winners out of that. Now we had the H1N1, and I think it was bird flu or something that came out a couple of years ago. And we had the Ebola, because I remember the guy that got on the plane for Africa. And I don't know if you remember when he had the Ebola breakout, people were saying, if I can get to the United States, I can get cured. And the United States was like, whoa, you just can't hop on a plane and get over here and affect everybody else.
Right.
So out of that stuff came out of it. Now we have this pandemic. This is going to change the way things are done too, but this is going to fast track a lot of things. And I just try to find a way sitting at home or working from home now. And I don't know when we're going to go back to work. Just trying to find a way to strategize and reap the benefits of this, because it's going to come.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect opportunity for a lot of Black people to restructure themselves and upskill themselves to be a part of this new industrialization that's going on right in front of our face. So let me get to this next article real quick, and then we'll open it up again. All right, this one is from fastcompany.com. How we can redesign cities to fight future pandemics. It should be interesting. It's an 8-minute read. Throughout history, disease outbreaks have forced new innovations in urban design. Fighting cholera epidemics in the 1800s, for example, necessitated the building of new plumbing and sewer systems and the devising of new zoning laws to prevent overcrowding. As the new coronavirus lays bare the need for broader changes across our economy, such as widespread paid sick leave, it might also influence how cities and buildings are built. There's an interesting nexus that's happening with the increase in thinking about chronic health in cities and the health districts that we're designing in this particular epidemic, says David Green, a principal at Perkins and Will, a design firm that has worked on health districts that address wider health issues such as walkability as a tool to reduce obesity and diabetes. I think that the next couple of months, especially, and the next year, is going to fundamentally change the way we think about the design of our cities. One part of that might mean creating buildings that can quickly switch to a different use in the case of an epidemic or another type of disaster. We've been looking at redesigning public spaces so that they can also work as logistics and treatment areas in the cities for epidemics like this, Green says. The firm is also studying how urban design affects the current outbreaks. We're working through the process of evaluating the spread of this epidemic as it ties to the physical design of cities, which includes things like population density. Better design could also help reduce crowds where viruses can't easily spread. At airports, for example, security screening could be done differently so that passengers aren't forced to wait together in crowded lines. New and upgraded airports are being designed to increase security screening lanes and reduce pinch points in passenger flow, says Arathi Gowda, Associate Director of High Performance Design at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. This, along with automated screening lanes, reduces passengers' wait time, congestion, and in person-to-person contact. In another approach, Changi Airport recently shifted to contactless screening for returning citizens. Interesting. Lionel Ohayon, founder and CEO of Icrave Design, a design firm that works in airports and stadiums, suggests that passengers might eventually be screened when they board autonomous vans headed to the airport rather than the airport itself. Inside airports, better design could help reduce crowds of people waiting at gates to board. While it's hard to eliminate crowds once people are on an airplane, the biggest risk comes from sitting near someone who is sick. The air on board is well filtered so viruses won't circulate further. That level of air quality treatment should be happening in other places. We can do it in our public transportation system, but it's not done, says Luke Luang, Director of Sustainable Engineering at SOM. It should also be happening inside more buildings. Not only is this something that we should think about, this is something that we must think about because we spend 90% of our time indoors, he says. Buildings have to be the secret weapon in the future to combat infectious diseases. Newer technology is making it more cost effective to make air much cleaner. UVC light, for example, can eliminate viruses in air treatment systems while simultaneously making equipment last longer. Traditional air filters add costs partly because it takes more energy to push air through them. Bringing fresh air into buildings is also important, as is improving ventilation outside in dense neighborhoods. If you have fresh air coming in, it will minimize the time that you're exposed to anything. Luong says, future technology will be able to do more. Sensors that can detect viruses on surfaces in real time, he says, are coming and can be used to warn building occupants or trigger air cleaning. So this is an example of airflow inside of one of these next generation designs. It's actually pretty interesting. Who's trying to get in here? Some buildings are also beginning to deploy temperature screening to identify people who might be ill. China and several other countries are currently measuring occupants' temperatures prior to entering a building using an infrared thermometer or alternatively utilizing thermal imaging, says Gowda. This was quickly deployed to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. This is not considered a positive test for COVID-19 or other viruses, but both technologies can be administered externally in order to minimize the risk of infection or the need to wear masks or other protective equipment. Typically, when people have a fever, they are at a very contagious point in their illness. With this technology, they can be made aware and directed to the appropriate avenues of testing and potentially quarantine to minimize person-to-person transmission. We are starting to see this technology in some hospitals in the United States, but it should be thought of as one of our first lines of defense in all buildings, with applications beyond healthcare environments. It's a picture of a hospital that they're thinking about designing. Hospitals, of course, can also be better designed to handle outbreaks of infectious diseases. The hospital at Rush University in Chicago has an ambulance bay that is designed to be closed off so that patients can be safely evaluated there before entering the hospital. Inside, negative pressure zones that limit the spread of the virus can be turned on in multiple areas. Hospital rooms can also transform. If you suddenly become very, very sick, like some of these patients they can immediately turn, this is so poorly written, immediately turn a room into a critical care ICU, says Maravana Williams, a senior medical planner at Perkins and Will and a former emergency department director. Hospitals and clinics can also add purpose-built telehealth centers to make it easier for doctors to treat patients remotely and avoid the potential spread of a virus. That's interesting that they bring this up about the airports, because I was in Doha a few weeks ago, and they had this robot that scanned your whole entire body. I had never seen it before. I don't even know if it came from China. I don't know how they developed it, but they were able to use this robot to scan your whole body before you even got onto the plane. I'm not sure where they got it from. More holistic approaches to making cities and buildings healthy can also impact future epidemics by making it less likely that people get sick and more likely that they avoid the most serious consequences. As one example, SOM is beginning to add more outdoor space to its designs, even in small, super tall buildings. One reason that access to outdoor space is important, a large percentage of Americans are vitamin D deficient, and some studies have linked higher vitamin D levels to a reduced risk of acute respiratory tract infection. Similarly, easy access to parks encourage people to spend time outside. Parks also encourage people to exercise, and they reduce air pollution. Polluted air is linked to health problems such as asthma, high blood pressure, and diabetes, all of which are associated with a higher risk for patients with new coronavirus. Walkable neighborhoods, by contrast, are linked to a lower risk for problems such as high blood pressure. The idea that parks can clean the air isn't new. It was used as justification for building Central Park and other major city parks in the 1800s. Yeah, this is a very interesting point, because the pollution that happens in predominantly Black neighborhoods, we covered an article last year that had an analysis on climate change in predominantly Black neighborhoods in America, and that the temperature in most predominantly Black neighborhoods are 10 plus or average degrees higher during the summertime than they are in predominantly white areas. And it's the lack of vegetation and the pollution that is causing this problem. And so Black people tend to suffer from the very acute conditions that this article is mentioning, such as asthma, high blood pressure, and diabetes. We know that Black men have a high rate of diabetes themselves, type 2, and blood pressure, high blood pressure, and asthma. And so we know that this actually is impacting Black people as a whole. And so the necessity to actually redesign some of these environments is critical, because climate change and pandemics like this actually leave Black people very vulnerable in their neighborhoods. And because they don't have access to quality healthcare, they're always at risk. So just want to point that out real quick. Even though landscape architects didn't have the science behind it, it was enough to build places like Central Park, the Emerald Necklace in Boston, I'm familiar with that, and do a large tree planting campaign in Chicago, says Sarah Jensen Carr, an architecture professor at Northeastern University and the author of the upcoming book about how past epidemics have influenced urban design. In the current crisis, she says, parks are also functioning as an escape. Being outside is one of the safer activities we can do right now. I think it speaks to the importance of having those spaces everywhere. Some potential changes in cities could be relatively simple. In Kigali, Rwanda, the city recently rolled out temporary hand washing stations at bus stops and started asking riders to wash their hands before boarding. The portable sinks are also in place at retail stores, banks, and restaurants. While the US has done something similar to a limited extent near homeless communities, it's possible to imagine that this type of infrastructure could become permanent at key places such as public transit hub. I was just in Kigali back in February, so they are actually right about this. I did see this, and I have talked about this many times before, that there are things that they're doing in Africa that are way ahead of what we're doing in the United States. I've talked about that. If you're walking around the city and there's actually nowhere you can wash your hands or use a public toilet, you've actually created a scenario that you're forcing people to actually take risks that they maybe don't want to take, says Ohain. In some cases, it might make sense to take cues from hospital design where sinks are deliberately placed to make people more likely to wash their hands. Ohain points to an example of one hospital that he worked on. As soon as you get off the elevator on any floor of that hospital, there's a hand washing area that's central, he says. It would also be embarrassing, or you would know that you stepped through it without washing your hands, and there's room for people looking at you. Yep. None of these changes in infrastructure and design would replace the need for other changes in public health, such as commitment to respond and test much more quickly in the case of an outbreak. But as environmental changes make future epidemics more likely, and as the population ages and cities continue to grow denser, it makes sense for urban design. It makes sense for urban design also to change. Seeing the devastation of countries such as Italy may be enough to convince more communities to invest in solutions that have been considered optional extras in the past. We have a lot of tools, says Gauda. We're not deploying them. I think this is a moment for us to really think we actually can change in a community spirit for a greater good. It's similar, she says, to interrelated issues such as climate change that also have solutions ready to deploy. There's an idea we're too big to change, but we're not. We're fundamentally an urban fabric, a community, and we can change quite quickly. So I think this is actually a very good article of highlighting some of the infrastructure challenges that the United States has in dealing with this whole pandemic. We know that Skid Row has thousands of people, thousands of homeless people living on it, but there's thousands of vacant apartments and living spaces available that the government doesn't want to place these people in, which would reduce the amount of spread of, you know, clustered people. And it's unfortunate that the government sat on their hands and did nothing and spent the money, you know, in other countries that are not really allies to us. Yeah, peace to Dr. Phoenix. Keep it techie. Jay Green, Danielle Gardner, good evening to you. Johnny Blaze, peace to you. Woman of the past, good evening to you as well. And so the United States has this problem, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of these infrastructure issues that have plagued them is based on racism. How they design their societies, they've designed these sort of suburbs where white people have isolated themselves from the rest of the non-white people. And they have they put all of their investment into making that area nice and neat and tidy. But when it came to everything else, they just did the bare minimum that they had to do and left it as is. And so now what you see is a pandemic that's causing where people where overcrowding is an issue for a pandemic like this. It has also come back to haunt the government and their civil infrastructure projects, where it didn't make a whole lot of sense for them to design the bare minimum or not even meet the standards of the people in the first place. And so they put a lot of money behind the F-22, the F-35, and a bunch of Abrams tanks, but they didn't do anything in terms of infrastructure development. And like the article says about Kigali, Rwanda, and I was just there back in February, the article is right about that. There's a lot of infrastructure development going on over there that looks out for the best interest for the people and not the other way around. This is something that I was talking about before, that you know, there are things that they're doing in Africa on the ground that is a lot better than what they're doing in America. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I agree. I know our infrastructure lacks severely. You know, other countries, during World War I and II, they started to bury the power lines. And we were supposed to be the most powerful nation on the earth, but we can barely keep the lights on when there's a storm that comes through. Mm-hmm. And you start to go in certain neighborhoods now, you'll see the power lines there are buried. You know, I ride through and look at all of that stuff, and I said, wow, we can't, if a storm comes through, it knocks out one of these transmission lines, everything is messed up. And you were talking about like the Black community. I don't know if anybody ever read this, but back in the 70s and 80s, everybody knows a lot of Black people that smoke Newport cigarettes. Mm-hmm. When Newport cigarettes first came out, they went to the predominantly Black neighborhoods and started advertising there to get Black people hooked on Newport. So that's why most Black folks know a lot about Newports than any other cigarette. Mm-hmm. And in my area where I live at, they're trying to rezone everything to keep the white kids separated from the Black kids. And a lot of people will go to the school board meetings and say, why are they trying to rezone? They're trying to make it to where if you don't have a certain zip code, the Black kids cannot be integrated with the white kids. And everything now is trying to separate Black kids from white kids. That's what I'm seeing everywhere. And it's a scary thing, but we don't know what's going on. And people will go down there and fight. And I was just previously saying that they'll say, well, why is my kid being left out of this area? Or why you don't make this certain amount of money, they can't go to this magnet school. Mm-hmm. It's trying to separate things. And it's just a lot going on that we got to read deeper into. You were talking earlier about the airport stuff. Mm-hmm. I thought about that, you know, I can see now when you come back through customs, they're going to scan you. This is a way a company, if they're not already developing these machines, you know, we have one of the, our borders in the United States are almost like a highway. You can go back and forth without any rules or whatnot. So now, like you were saying earlier, you said a robot would scan you to take your temperature back in February. Now with this pandemic, once they get it under wraps, I can see now when you get off the plane and go to customs, it's going to take a couple of more hours for them to scan you, because the first thing is they don't want you to bring a foreign virus into the country, or another country doesn't want you to do it. The US might be behind on this, but like you said, other countries are ahead developing this kind of stuff. And I can see that's going to be a big thing coming up in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they already have the technology. It's just a matter of implementing it. I mean, where would you implement it, right? Would the airlines industry actually get involved in this? Because you are on a plane, and let's say you're on a plane for 8, 9, 12 hours from one continent to the other. You may develop something in that 8-hour span. So what happens when you exit the plane itself? Does the plane have the necessary sensors embedded inside of it that can scan each and every passenger on the seat before they even get off? You know, those sort of mechanisms, you know, from a tech perspective is what I look at, right? How do you measure a person from a step-by-step process, from the airplane to the terminal, from the terminal to the external factor, and so on and so forth. That, you know, going to the subway or the bus, you know, are there sensors on the bus that can actually detect a person's fever above 97? I don't even know what the standard rate for temperature is. 97 degrees Fahrenheit.
98.6.
Yeah, 98.6. So, you know, there's got to be a way to have a streamlined process that everyone is partaking in from a compliance standpoint. That's what I look at, right? From a cybersecurity standpoint, every piece of data that goes through that is sensitive has to be masked and protected from end to end. We have to treat humans in the same exact way if there's going to be pandemics like this, that from the time that they go to check in to the time that they go through TSA, to the time that they go on the plane, from the time they go on the plane, they come back and go. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a process that is incumbent that everybody has to be compliant with in order to prevent that sort of spread.
Yeah. This is going to change building codes. You know, when they erect buildings now, you know, sheetrock, you can't wet it to sanitize it. But now I can see when they build new buildings, it's going to be a material to where they can spray it and wipe it off. And it's going to change building codes in cities forever. Just like when they have the earthquakes in California, the buildings had to be earthquake proof. Just like in, oh yeah, I want to say something.
Keep going.
Oh, just like in the South, when they in Florida, the houses over here have to be hurricane proof. There has to be a certain kind of shingles that's on them, and they have to be built differently. So this pandemic is going to make, you know, you were saying the way they can sanitize things and with airflow and everything. And I never thought about that stuff till you just brought it up. So, you know, you learn something new every day. I didn't think about that stuff, you know, the way that I noticed it was going to impact us, but I didn't think about the minute ways of airflow and the way buildings are erected, how this is going to change everything. And, you know, when they enforce stricter building codes, they raise the taxes in the cities to cover it. So, you know, they'll say, well, this is to make it where you're safer. And people will say, well, I don't want another coronavirus thing. We'll just charge everybody with a building valued at this amount, $2,000 more a year. And if you have those kind of buildings in one city, it'll add up fast to where it's covered to get enforcement officers or to get people to go by and inspect it. And it'll cover the cost of materials.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've talked about this before, but you're new to the channel, so is Vivian. But there was an issue here locally where there was trash in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and one of the politicians couldn't understand why the place was so dirty. It's because there was a lack of trash cans. So people don't have any place to put the trash, so they throw it on the ground. So city deployed all these trash cans out there. These things are like 25, 30 gallons. They fill it up within a day. And so sanitation only comes by once a week. That's not enough. And so the trash would flow, and then you would have seagulls and rats and raccoons and stuff digging through the trash because there's food in there. So more diseases and stuff like that came about. Someone came up with the idea of having an automated trash can. this trash can that they designed had a scale to it to weigh itself that was connected to a Wi-Fi adapter that would then send out a text message, an SMS message to the sanitation people to come pick up the trash, and it was powered by a solar panel. And so they would pick up the trash more frequently throughout the day rather than throughout the week, and just reduce the amount of trash that was on the ground to a bare minimum. And so these are sort of sustainable solutions that people have to really think about of, you know, why there's so much disease and stuff in certain Black neighborhoods. Well, it's because there's a lot of sanitation issues, you know, and the city doesn't have any real solutions for it. And that's where people like us, you and I and Vivian and many others come in and solve that issue and actually get paid for it. This brother or this person who made it is making billions of dollars now, or he's going to be a billionaire at some point, because every other city has requested this sort of trash receptacle. They all want it now. Now, this trash receptacle is so big because it has a recycling bin next to it. It has advertisement on the back because it's such a mass size now. And so now it's considered street furniture. Vision, go ahead. Your hand is up.
Can you hear me, Mike B?
Yes, we can.
All right. How you doing, gentlemen?
Well, good. How you doing?
All right. Mike B, I was listening. First of all, when you talk about a body scan, I remember Total Recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger or somebody was running through the scanner and they could see the gun in him. So it's amazing how like that movie came out in the 90s and you pretty much have the body scanners that you're talking about. I believe Israel or Tel Aviv has it too when you go into the airport, but I've never been there, so I can't really speak on that. Sorry?
Most airports have it.
Okay. What I want to say was I was listening to you on a panel where Zero and C Boogie were kind of debating to solutions. And then I remember you said something that I thought was impressive when you said a solution is leave USA, and there's land for you guys to go build in Africa and South America. And when I remember you saying that, I remember I came up with this idea. I remember watching documentaries on smart cities. Like they built a city in the middle of Dubai, a smart city. It's a project that they're doing, testing it out. And they also built a smart city in Korea. And I know you probably know a little bit more about this than I do. And even in Israel, like, we don't know what's out there. You could say pretty much in the middle of a desert. So what I'm trying to say is it is possible to build cities in the middle of the desert with the technology that we have now. And so I just kind of want to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so I want to say that it's a very lofty idea. You know, so people will have to make sacrifices in order to make that dream come true. But I think it was an excellent idea. It's very hard. It's going to take a lot of money. But if like quote unquote Black people kind of want to control, you know, like their own societies, they're going to have to leave America. And I think it could be a win-win, you know, because now I'm thinking of Active Directory. I'm sorry, I haven't studied this subject in like 5 years when I went to school for it. But you know how they set up the domain controllers, like how you can have one domain communicating with the other domain controllers and they could be connected. And that's how the smart cities could work. So you could still have American intelligent people living in the States, but communicating with all the cities all over the world. And like, you know, we have the engineers, like I'm talking about Black people, we have the scientists, we have everything. So it is possible. And then the one last point I want to make, you know, when I used to be a communist Hotep Brotherhood kind of guy, they used to always brag about Egypt, right? And so we studied Egypt, we studied the Great Pyramids, and, you know, there's pyramids all over the world. And, you know, we can argue who built them. Like sometimes the Mayo boys like to say it was aliens. And then my friend would say, if it was aliens, then aliens must have worshipped the Black man. But I don't want to go, I don't want to take it there. So all I'm trying to say is, give me a second here. I lost my train. I'm just saying in the past, like Pharaoh Akhenaten moved an entire capital. So what I'm trying to say is like Black people are fully capable of doing this, and why aren't we doing it? It's like 2,000-3,000 years later. There's like no more excuses. So I just kind of want to say that, and it sort of kind of fits in with when you talk about technology and what this space is all about. That's all.
All right, thank you. Dr. D, you have anything you want to add to that, or?
Oh no, I was just listening to the information.
Okay. Yeah, so to your point, Vision, I wasn't saying necessarily build your own cities, but more about smart villages, right? We don't have to copy everything that the West or the Europeans do in order to be successful. You can have um, these sort of enclaves that don't have these massive erected structures, but just have enough capacity for living and for small business purposes and still be successful. I think too often we see what colonizers do and we try to replicate what the colonizer does as a way to live for ourselves. And that's not the most applicable scheme of operation to actually adopt. What works for them doesn't necessarily have to work for us. You think about a smart village, you're talking about taking storage containers and converting them into clinics and small elementary schools and so on and so forth, and connecting tablets to them and using solar energy, renewable energies, and broadband communication technology through wireless tech. It doesn't necessarily have to be a colonizer's paradise for you to live. So that's all I was saying. We can actually do something like that. That's doable.
Can I add one? Can I add one more thing? Also, like I haven't studied this. I remember Dr. Phoenix mentioned it, and it's been mentioned before. Black Wall Street is another perfect example. It is possible, and we have Chinatowns all over the world. You have Jamaica towns, but the Chinatowns seem to be sufficient. So I kind of agree with the things you're saying, and plus you're doing the work. You're going to Africa, you're holding seminars, right? And so like I think people like you and Zero, who have like 20 years or more experience are going to be important in like how we're going to move into the next phase, especially when you talk about fourth industrialization and things like that. So like I think the guys like yourself and Complex Design and everybody on this space, people will have to listen to you guys, because you guys don't only have the knowledge, you also have the experiences, and I think we should follow what you guys are saying. That's very much what I'm trying to say.
All right, we also got Vivian on the panel. Ms. Ibrahim, you have anything you want to add to this? I think she's away. Let me rock on to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from Letrek.co. Tesla self-driving traffic light and stop sign interaction explained in leaked manual. This is going to be interesting. Tesla is about to release a new update that will result in its autopilot under its full self-driving package reacting to traffic light and stop signs. We get the full explanation on how the new feature works thanks to the leaked manual. As we reported last week, Tesla has started to push an autopilot update with the actual ability to handle intersections to its early access fleet. A group of owners who beta test new software update from Tesla. We even got to see a quick demo video. Now, thanks to Tesla hacker Green, we get to see the whole manual for the feature, go into details about how it works. When auto steer or traffic aware cruise control is active, stopping at traffic lights and stop signs is designed to identify stop signs and traffic lights and slow Model 3, Model Y down to a stop. This feature uses the vehicle's forward-facing cameras in addition to GPS data to detect upcoming traffic lights, stop signs, and road markings. So the feature is called stopping at traffic lights and stop signs, and works on top of Autopilot's auto steer and TACC. Also, this confirms that the new feature at least partially relies on GPS data, which we know is not always accurate. As expected, Tesla makes it clear that the feature is in beta and that the driver is always responsible. This message is, always pay attention to the roadway and be ready to take immediate action. It is the driver's responsibility to determine whether to stop or proceed through an intersection. Never depend on stopping at traffic lights and stop signs to determine when it is safe or appropriate to stop or continue through an intersection. This message is extremely important and should be at the top of everyone's mind when using the feature, especially when you consider the list of limitations that Tesla provided for the new feature. Railroad crossings, keep out zones, toll booths, crosswalk systems, yield signs or temporary traffic signs and traffic lights and stop signs, such as construction areas, miscellaneous traffic, U-turn lights, bicycle and pedestrian crossing lights, lane availability lights, etc. Some of these are actually quite common at intersections. Furthermore, while the feature aims to stop at a red light, they require input from the driver to go through green lights. Interesting. Tesla explains that the vehicle will require permission from the driver to cross traffic lights even if they are green. When stopping at traffic lights and stop signs is enabled and you are using auto steer or traffic aware cruise control, the touch screen displays a pop-up message to inform you that an upcoming traffic light, stop sign, or road marking has been detected. As it approaches the stop location, even at an intersection in which the traffic light is green, Model 3, Model Y slows down and displays a red line to indicate where the vehicle will come to a complete stop. To continue through the intersection, you must press down on the gear lever or briefly press the accelerator pedal to give the vehicle permission to proceed. When you've confirmed that you want to proceed, the red stop line turn gray and Model 3, Model Y continues through the intersection and resumes your set cruise speed. For more information, blah, blah, blah. So what they have done here, and I project that this is what's going to happen going forward, is that Tesla is allowing people today to beta test their cars for autonomous vehicle purposes. I'm estimating, based off of this sort of development, that if the life cycle development is every 18 months, then you're talking about by 2030 that these cars may be fully capable of driving on their own and there won't be any steering wheel there. So you're talking about level 5 autonomy on these sort of Tesla vehicles. And they seem to be ahead of everybody else. Maybe not as far as Waymo, but they're pretty far ahead based on this article, or at least these notes that have been released. Because if you have, if they're identifying traffic lights now and stop signs and stuff and so on and so forth, and having the ability to accelerate past a green light in that instance, then they're not that far off from being fully capable of not needing a human to drive it, drive the vehicle anymore, which I find to be very interesting. So all these people that work for Uber and Lyft, they're collecting a lot of data on people's driving habits, switching lanes and where they pull up to drop a person off or pick a person up, and parallel parking and stuff like that. They're collecting all of that data for good reason, because they plan on selling these autonomous vehicles at some point. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add to this, but if not, we'll move on.
Oh yeah, I have to take a quick break after I say this. I got to do something. Anybody ever rode in one of? Has anybody had the opportunity to ride in one of the Tesla cars?
One of our members, Johnny Blaze in the chat, he actually owns a Tesla. He raves about it a lot. He's not on the panel right now. Yeah, he has one. He's in the chat.
I rode in a cohort of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He took his hands off. He said, "You want to see something neat?" The car actually was taking the curves, just like a human would do it. The car would drive on the curves. You're nervous riding in the car because he took his hands off the steering wheel. And it's so technically advanced. I mean, just riding in it, the acceleration, I see why people buy them. Mm-hmm. But if you're a tech person like me, you're like, all this is good until the wiring shorts out or somebody finds a way to get into the system of this car.
Mm-hmm.
And you mainly control the car. You can control the car a lot by your iPhone because there's an app you can do everything by your iPhone. And I can see now, you were talking about it going to stop signs. You were talking about Uber and Lyft drivers. Yeah, I can see eventually this could be their biggest competitor. And you were saying they were letting regular people beta test it. You know, it takes a liability off of them to let regular people beta test the software. You know, every 18 months, as you were saying, it would cycle through. It takes a lot of the liability off of them to say, well, you signed the paperwork to test it. It's not our fault. And it's just mind-boggling. Just the way things are going with these autonomous cars. I know one of the biggest things people want to know about autonomous cars, if an object comes in front of it with the cameras, does it have to can it react as fast? Can it react just as fast as a human? That's one of the biggest things. You know, if a ball or a kid jumps out in front of it, people are wondering, well, can the car stop itself? And now you see on commercials now, cars now will stop themselves in motion if something comes into the actual path. But I've never seen them do a commercial where one of these cars are going 60 or 70 miles an hour and this happens and it gradually slows down. It's always 20 or 25 miles an hour. So I've noticed that on commercials. And when they have these cars like a Kia commercial, I know everybody saw that. I think it was Kia during the Super Bowl. If you notice how much space was between the cars, when they let it park itself, and Ford too, when they let these cars parallel park themselves, if you watch the commercials, there's never a tight space. I just observed that just to say, can it really do that or can it not? But they, it's just the way they put out advertisements and the way they do things, but that's a subsidy of allowing cars to drive themselves. Once they fully get that down, I don't know what may happen. We all may be in a world of crap coming up.
No, man, it's right. You're right about that. So what's supposed to happen with these vehicles when they're traveling at a highway pace speed, 60, 65 miles an hour, the LiDAR on the front and the cameras are supposed to identify what's up front. And based on the rate of the vehicle in front of you and the vehicles beside you is how it determines how much brake needs to be applied and how much accelerator needs to be applied. So if there's a car slowing down in front of you, the LiDAR sensor is supposed to, reduce the amount of speed through braking so that it doesn't run into the next vehicle. That's supposed to be how it works, and typically how it does work. Because even if you've driven a car with LiDAR, those LiDAR sensors, you would know that if your car gets too close, there's all types of bells and stuff that goes off and whistles and stuff, and you can't accelerate any faster. It really just brings it to a complete halt. But it never jams on the brakes and skids.
Interesting.
Hey, what's going on, Complex? Your mic is very low, so please put some volume on it, brother.
Wait, can you hear me? How do I sound?
Your mic is not sounding great at all. You might have to log off and log back on.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Are you guys going to be? Oh,
we're going to be here for another hour or so. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to step away.
Yeah, absolutely. Do your thing.
Hey, Mike, can I say something? Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Here's the question I want to ask. I remember, again, I'm going back to past knowledge. I remember there was when we were in school and we were learning about IPv4, right? And our teacher was telling us that they have to go to IPv6 because we're gonna run out of IP addresses. And so my question for you is, like, let's say when all this gets rolled out, all these automated cars and almost everything in your home is online, will they have to fully ship to IPv6, or is that not even a debate?
That's the whole purpose of IPv6.
Because the cars are going to have an IP address. Am I wrong? Or
yeah, that's the whole purpose of IPv6.
Okay, because like basically every person is going to have like a 10 IP address just to their name, with their cell phone, with their whatever. And so yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of it. It's the whole purpose of IPv6.
And this is sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
And this is a little bit beyond my level of study. How will IPv6 and what do you call what's the next cellular 5? Is it 5G?
5G.
How are those two intertwined? Or is there any connection with those two or no?
They're completely connected. You need a faster network to collect all this data in real time, and you need a lot of IP addresses to assign to all these devices that's going to be coming out.
Hey, Mike, do I sound okay now?
Yeah, you sound good, brothers. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm just getting off the clock right now, man. So, I'm back at it. So I'm coming in late on the discussion, but I'm hearing some EV talk.
Yeah, smart cities, EVs, and things of that nature. So they were just talking about Tesla released the autopilot update to their Model 3, Model Y vehicles, and this is for traffic light recognition and stop sign recognition. That if a Tesla vehicle comes to a traffic light, it knows to come to recognize a red light and then accelerate through a green light if you hit the accelerator. So what we were talking about, Dr. D and myself, was the life cycle development from a software standpoint, right? Big updates is usually about 18 months. It could be even quicker because of DevOps. But if we're using 18 months as a figure, if they're doing this right now in 2020, by 2030, these cars are going to be able to drive on their own level 5. You won't even have the need for a driver. So Tesla, for all intents and purposes, could just be an appliance maker, basically. A car is just an appliance at that point, and you just get in the car and it just drives where you need it to go. Or it, some other, conglomerate may adopt their own autonomous taxis and just have them pick people up and go where they need to go. The whole entire idea of a steering wheel is going to be null and void.
Yeah, I mean that's been the plan. That's been the plan since day one. Is to get to that point where things are moving everything's moving along in a grid autonomously. You can better manage traffic flow. You can get things and people from point A to B quicker, right? If the process to do it all is automated, right? Just really think about that. If the entire process of moving things and people from point A to point B is completely automated, that means you can basically plug and play with the variables to get the desired results if you have the appropriate resources and the ability to manage it all. So that's where the 5G infrastructure comes in as a crucial component to all of this, because you can't get to level 5 given what we have right now, right? We have to have full 5G deployment to have just that. Right now, based on what we have driver assist, we have micro transport. We have the workings and the makings of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that it is a 2020, it's a 2030 to 2035 before you see stuff out there just rolling really just on its own from a commercial standpoint, like it's like a common sight.
Well, Waymo's already doing it. We know that.
Yeah.
I mean, was already ahead of the game, but Tesla is not that far behind. I would say Tesla is probably about 6 months behind, if anything.
Yeah, but you can't, but that's the thing, right? It's almost like, I kind of look at it as like an autonomous arms race, but people are kind of they're putting out what they got, but not showing their full hand. Because there is competition in the tech field for this, right? Like, Tesla, Waymo, and all, they're not exactly buddies in this venue. Their stuff is highly guarded, and they want to show what capabilities they have while at the same time not showing too much. And you have to kind of creep and move with the infrastructural updates. So every time, first it was T-Mobile, next it'll be Sprint that says, oh, now we're announcing our nationwide 5G rollout. Next thing you know, you're going to start just seeing more and more things that, autonomous vehicles can do. So it's kind of like an industrial one-upsmanship. No one's going to show their hands in all this. Not yet.
Vision has his hand up.
Oh, all right. Hey, hello, Complex Design.
Hey, what's going on, man? Oh,
The-
welcome. Hi, everybody. I just came in through blabbering.
I get the sense that you two are like the top dudes in this Black Brain Trust. Am I wrong? Or you guys are pushing it the hardest?
We're considered contributors.
It's just yeah, we're not top dudes, no.
All right, fair enough. This is what I want to say. I want to paint a picture because I kind of the source here was Kevin Samuels, but it's something completely different. I'm sure you guys remember this. I remember when Michael Jordan got that $50 million contract, like it was yesterday, right? And I was like, wow, look at this. He's gonna be making $50 million, right? And I never saw the day, like I don't know if it was James Harden or Russell Westbrook, where these guys would be getting $200 million contracts. And the point I'm trying to make is I was always thinking, like, you're gonna have bosses and you're gonna have employees, right? That's just you're gonna get in where you fit in depending on how much work you put in life. That's just how that goes. And I remember I never thought, like, wow, if this man can pay you $200 million, how much money is he making? So what I'm trying to say is a lot of things I never saw coming. I never saw the NBA not having a season, and that's like $1 billion industry. And so the good thing about the sector that you guys have been doing, and you guys have mentioned this, like now I'm starting to hear about XMR in different spaces, I'm starting to hear about blockchain and cryptocurrency and the cannabis industry and subsidiary industries from the cannabis. And you guys have been like, I'm not trying to take credit away from everybody else that might have known about it, but you guys have been like tooting this horn for a very long time. And so like, I'm really like, I'm starting to appreciate this space more and more and more, so that like when I am ready to kind of invest in these things, there's a source I can come to, and it's the Black Brain Trust. And it's, and the one thing I do want to make, we always have to like listen, sometimes we'll only listen when the Mayo boy is saying it, and not when a brother is saying it. But you guys are proving that, Black people are very intelligent people, and they are on point. And I really appreciate that. I can't really add to the technology aspect, but I can just add to how this space is helping me. And I hope that it's helping everybody else that's paying attention. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, man. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let me jump to this next item on the docket. This is from electrek.co. Tesla bids to deploy one of the biggest batteries in the world with 244 megapacks in Hawaii. So Tesla is working on a bid to deploy one of the biggest battery systems in the world with 244 megapacks. Tesla's latest giant battery system on a Hawaiian island. After a lot of rumors and anticipation, Tesla launched its Megapack last year. It's the company's latest energy storage product after the Power Pack and the Powerwall. And it is meant as an even bigger option targeting electric utility projects. According to Tesla, a single Megapack has up to 3 megawatts of hour of storage capacity and a 1.5 megawatt inverter. Tesla CEO Elon Musk asked utilities to buy the new Megapack to replace polluting and inefficient peaker plants. Some electric utilities have started taking Musk up on his offer, as we started hearing about several new Megapack deployments over the last few months. Interesting. Now we learn of a giant new project that Tesla is bidding on with the Megapack in Hawaii. Hawaiian Electric, Hawaii's biggest electric utility serving 95% of the state, is developing a massive energy storage project in Kai Valley, Ohio. The goal is to provide both load shifting services and create backup power to its electric grid. Load shifting stores energy during periods of low customer demand for use during early morning hours and at night when electricity demand is at its highest. This type of BES enables the electric grid to accommodate more renewable resources or sources such as solar and wind, while it displaces thermal generation and helps lower emissions. So load shifting is something I experienced over in Africa. I didn't know anything about load shifting until I got over there. And this description actually highlights exactly what I was experiencing when I was over there, that sometimes the power would go and shift from one area to another when in peak. So it kind of makes a lot of sense now to me. Contingency allows stored energy to be sent to the grid as a quick response to an unexpected event, such as a sudden drop in energy production from wind, solar, or a thermal power plant. This quick response capability improves grid reliability and reduces the likelihood of customer outages. They have been taking proposals since last summer, and Tesla's proposal to use megapacks for the project appears to be one of the front runners. Hawaiian Electric released an environmental assessment draft for Tesla's project. With a planned capacity of 810 megawatts, the project would become one of the biggest batteries in the world. The proposed project consists of a grid-tied BESS capable of storing 810 megawatts of power of energy and discharging it at a rate of 135 megawatts. In addition to the batteries, the BESS project will include inverters and transformers, concrete pads, underground cables and ducts, switchgear, and other electrical infrastructure. The BESS site is close to the existing 138 kilovolt transmission switchyards at KGS, allowing for a strategic interconnection. Depending on the final design, some relocation of existing 138 kilovolt transmission or 46 kilovolt sub-transmission lines may be required. Work within the existing switchyard related to interconnections will include limited new equipment and structures similar to those already present within the switchyard. To put it into perspective, it would have more than 6 times the energy capacity of Tesla's 100 megawatt, 121 megawatt power pack project in South Australia, which was the biggest battery in the world when it was completed a few years ago. Tesla's proposals consist of deploying 244 Tesla megapacks. This is something. This is something. I don't think people really understand the significance of this, because Puerto Rico, which is a Commonwealth of the United States, has a grid issue. And something like this would actually solve all of Puerto Rico's problems. And I'm surprised that the US government has neglected Puerto Rico to the point where something like this that's actually available is not actually being selected for as a choice. Complex, you have a lot of feedback on your microphone. Yeah, so this is something that's doable. And so when Vision came up and he talked about my engagement with so many brothers on a different platform, on a different forum, about creating our own little cities, this is exactly what you're going to use.
Hey, Mike, do I sound okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit, dude. I had a point to just follow up on based on what you were talking about. It had to do with the power walls. Oh wait, okay. Tesla. Okay, if you recall, after the hurricane, Tesla actually did deploy one of these. They deployed one of these in Puerto Rico.
No, they deployed a power pack station, but not the mega pack.
Well, no, not the mega pack. No. But that power pack was the precursor to this mega pack, because they deployed that, and then they deployed a larger power pack in Australia. I think it was. They scaled up quite a bit from the one they deployed in Puerto Rico, and so both of them have proven to just work beyond expectation. This is the reason why now they're just like, yo, let's go for broke and let's do the mega pack. Well, because the two large scale deployments that they have done so far, man, they worked like beyond expectation.
Well, they're actually small scale deployments. So the point of a mega pack is for microgrids, and a power pack is meant for microgrids, and a mega pack is
for a full scale grid.
Yes, meant for a full scale grid. So what I'm saying here is that Puerto Rico's electricity problem, utility problems is due to the neglect from the whole entire infrastructure itself. And you would think that the United States government would
Oh,
actually,
you're talking about their pre-existing the pre-existing grid.
right, the pre-existing grid is actually outdated
Yeah,
and
yeah.
replaced. And what better way to replace it than with an American company providing
Well,
infrastructure, right?
I think that might have been. I think Tesla did that as a proof of concept.
Yeah, but their initial entry into the game was through the power walls,
The
right?
power walls, right? That's what I mean. It seems as though it's like when you look at the type of technology that would drive this, all they've done is they've done proof of concept scalability, right? They started with panels, okay, solar city. Then they went from there to the power wall that plugs right into the actual energy collector. Then they went from the power wall to the power pack. Now they're going from the power pack to the mega pack. And I'm just saying at every level, their technology is shown to do every bit that they've claimed it to do. I think the only thing that they need to pretty much and they're actually doing the studies on it right now. They're conducting the research on it right now. Is the solar panels that are shaped in the form of roof tiles? Have you seen those?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have to do like a 3 and a 5 year um, uh, uh, like basically an R&D on it to see like how efficient those types of panels are over the course of say like 1 year, 3 year, and then 5 years. But every other bit of their of like their power wall based technology, I don't know. I don't see how it doesn't work.
Yeah. All right. Next item on the docket is from InsideDevs.com or Inside Devs. Battery electric versus hydrogen fuel cell efficiency comparison. This is going to be long. Volkswagen recently released a quite interesting comparison of the battery electric vehicle and hydrogen fuel cell FCV path to zero emission mobility. The conclusion is that the only way for passenger cars is battery electric cars. It's great to see that the German manufacturer draws the correct conclusions in line with our very own opinion, basically since the beginning of Inside EVs. But let's see the details and explain the differences between BEVs and FCVs. A BEV is equipped with a relatively large rechargeable battery, which supplies electricity to the inverter and then electric motor. In the case of FCVs, the battery is very small because it works only as a buffer between the power electronics motor and the hydrogen fuel cells. The fuel cell stack provides electricity consuming hydrogen stored in tanks at high pressure. So this is a snapshot of a hydrogen drive setup. All right. When comparing the BEVs with FCVs, Volkswagen refers to the studies which say that hydrogen fuels will remain more expensive than driving all electric. The reason for that is simple. More energy is required to produce them compared to electricity and charging. Moreover, the greener the electricity is, the higher the advantage for BEVs. FCVs turn out to be very inefficient, both in terms of efficiency and operating costs. The only light in the tunnel for FCVs is maybe long distance heavy duty vehicles, as well as in rail, air, and sea transport, but it's not yet proven commercially. Battery electric trucks are also coming. Science is largely in agreement on this issue, as several recent studies have shown. The Federal Ministry for the Environment, for example, assumes that hydrogen and synthetic fuels, so-called e-fuels, will remain more expensive than an electric drive, as more energy is required for their production. The Agora Volkswagen Traffic Transformation Initiative also points out that hydrogen and e-fuels do not offer ecologically sound and alternatives without the use of 100% renewable energies, and that given the current and foreseeable electricity mix, the e-car has by far the best energy balance. In the view of the Fraunhofer Institute, synthetic fuels and dry technologies such as hydrogen in combination with the fuel cell will indeed play a role, but not so much in the passenger car sector, but rather in long distance and heavy duty traffic, as well as in rail and air and sea transport. These segments will only be converted in later phases of the energy turnaround beyond the year 2030 and closely linked to the expansion of renewable energies. In fact, hydrogen-based fuel cell technology has one crucial disadvantage. It is inefficient, both in terms of efficiency and operating costs. This is also confirmed in detail by a Horvath and Partners study comparing both types of driving for e-cars from the customer's point of view. Dr. Frank Welsh, member of the board of management of the Volkswagen passenger cars brand with responsibility for technical development, said, if we want to take the mobility turnaround and the environmental goals seriously, we must focus on battery electric drive. Everything else is a waste of limited regenerative energy. Efficiency comparison, according to studies, all electric cars can achieve outstanding overall well-to-wheel efficiency of 70 to 90%, depending on a particular example. In its study, Automotive Industry 2035 Forecast for the Future, the management consultancy recently had a detailed investigation carried out into whether battery or hydrogen-powered e-cars will become established in the future. The study was prepared over 6 months, accompanied by 80 people, interview partners, and financed by the management consultancy itself. The main reason for our study was that Horvath and Partners serves many clients in the automotive industry, automotive supply industry. Of course, these clients want to know what to expect in the next 10 to 15 years, says study director. I'm not going to try to pronounce this person's name. So which energy storage system has the best efficiency and is the most cost effective for powering electric cars? With battery powered e-cars, only 8% of the energy is lost during transport during the electricity, before the electricity is stored in the vehicle's batteries. When the electrical energy is converted to drive the electric motor, another 18% is lost. Depending on the model, the battery-powered e-car thus achieves an efficiency of between 70 and 80%. The hydrogen fuel cell requires 2 to 3 times more energy to drive the same distance as the overall well-to-wheel efficiency is from 25 to 35%. That's sad. So here's the
yeah, in an internal combustion engine, it's about 20 to 25%. That's how much of the power in gas is actually converted into workable energy.
Mhm.
Everything else is spent off in heat energy and vibrational energy, and then energy that counter inertial energy.
All right. The conclusion, as we many times pointed out over the years, hydrogen fuel cell cars have 3 serious drawbacks: high initial cost of the vehicles, high fuel costs, lack of refueling infrastructure. The FCV's advantage of range is shrinking as batteries are getting more energy dense. Moreover, if you don't have a refueling infrastructure nearby, you have to go to a certain hydrogen station, not necessarily along the route, which costs time and range. So basically, there is no range advantage in practical use. Hydrogen as a drive, advantages and disadvantages at a glance. The advantages is it's emission-free. Hydrogen is available in infinite quantities via electrolysis, high range of up to 600 kilometers, fast refueling, 3 to 5 minutes, and no engine sounds, leads to less road noise. The disadvantages are lower efficiency due to high energy losses, highly flammable. However, hydrogen volatilizes rapidly. Poor infrastructure, only 60 filling stations in Germany, and high cost, very expensive to purchase and maintain. Yeah, the upfront cost is always going to be there. But I do agree that FCVs do make sense for transport. So you start
Yeah.
talking about, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. No, I'll follow up on your thought.
And so I was saying that it does make sense for railway because railway can actually benefit from the long distances that it needs to travel, whether you're talking about standard railway or even a high-speed train, something that does at least 190 to 200 miles an hour. It has to be a fraction of what a plane does because a plane can actually do 500 with considerable amount of weight and passengers in the air, but a lot of that is limited in its capacity rather than the train itself can pull a whole lot more than what a plane can. So there's a lot of efficiency to be met with the hydrogen car. And so, I mean, the hydrogen battery setup. So the FCV has the range of up to 600 kilometers. That's actually a considerable distance for a train or a boat or something to that effect. So hydrogen does have its areas of use, just not in small passenger vehicles.
No, I totally agree, and this is the reason why I think just as an industrial shift, you really do need both technologies. Like the Nikola trucks, for example, are battery powered, but there's an onboard hydrogen generator, right? So now you're getting the best of both worlds. You have a hydrogen generator that basically will alternate between charging two different packs. So the truck's operating on one pack while the hydrogen generator is charging another. Or you can set it up, you can chain it to where you have a combination of like wheel braking, regenerative, like KERS or regen braking, that's dumping energy back into the battery, depending on like if you're going downgrade, you can use gravity to charge the batteries, which means that you could save energy costs on your hydrogen when you're driving straight on a flat plane. That's when you crank up the hydrogen charger to charge the batteries. You could use that same, you could leverage the same type of hybrid technologies in like the trains and the boats, for example. That's why, to me, the Nikola trucks, which is really weird because you have the Tesla trucks and you have the Nikola trucks, right? But the Nikola trucks that's a very interesting concept on hybridization using both battery and hydrogen. So I like that concept in large scale application. But when it comes to cars, EV is the way to go, just full electric. And the reason being is because the number one rule of thumb here is the number of moving parts. If the more the moving parts, the more possibility for things to go wrong with it, right? So with a hydrogen fuel cell car, you have far more moving parts than you have with just a straight up EV. With just a pure electric vehicle, you have like a sum total anywhere from 17 to 20 moving parts total. So there's very little things to break down. And if something does break down, it's very easy to source where the breakdown is. When you have any sort of engine that has piston action, crankshaft, valve train, and all these types of things, you have an upwards of like 2,000 to 3,000 plus moving parts, more things to go wrong. So what they didn't put in there was maintenance costs. Just as a whole, you have electric motors that with basic maintenancing have been in service for over 100 years. That's why Tesla has a 1,000,000-mile warranty on their cars. Like so much as if you don't like go and crash it somewhere, they don't expect the motors to have any problems for like at least 200,000 to 300,000 miles.
All right. Next item on the docket is from fastcompany.com. This simple 3D printable attachment lets you open doors hands-free. Current evidence suggests that the virus that causes COVID-19 can live on surfaces such as sustainable stainless steel and plastic for up to 3 days, meaning it is possible to infect yourself by touching a contaminated surface such as a door handle and then touching your mouth, nose, or eyes. People often have to enter and exit rooms or buildings, and until more accessible automatic doors are installed, we can't simply tell everyone to stop touching doorknobs. A simple, quick solution are these 3D printable add-ons that can be fitted onto doors in hospitals and businesses, allowing people to open doors hands-free. They could be an easy way to reduce the chances of cross-contamination from coronavirus and generally keep people's hands cleaner in the future. The printable door opener, designed by a Belgium-based 3D printing company, Materialize, needs only a few screws to be attached around door handles, allowing a door to be opened with a covered forearm rather than a hand. The idea started with a brainstorming session between the CEO and engineers about what the company could do to help during the coronavirus crisis, says Materialize Vice President Brian Crutchfield. During that brainstorming session, the idea came up for a way to open doors without using your hands to try to contain the spread of the germs, he said. And literally inside of 24 hours, they turned around a design and got it on a 3D printer and printed the first prototype off and tried it out on one of our handles. So that's a picture of the 3D printed handle. Materialize quickly added several designs to adapt the hands-free handle to fit multiple types of doorknobs and made those designs free to download online. In less than a week, those designs have been downloaded at about 30,000 times globally. Materialize itself printed 1,500 of its free door openers for its partners in the medical industry. Many hospitals also have their own 3D printing facilities. The Mayo Clinic was able to print the hands-free door openers itself, according to a tweet from the director of the clinical 3D printing lab there, who noted that in a hospital setting, it is even more important to limit touching services during the coronavirus outbreak. This is a GIF of the 3D handle.
I mean, it's just, I almost want to make a joke, but then again, it's almost kind of ingenious at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the reason why is because I'm actually pricing out a 3D printer right now to do parts fabrication, like prototyping, using photogrammy, right? Where you take a whole bunch of pictures from different angles of something, dump it into a program, and then it creates a 3D model, and then you can just print it out. So it's like, that's why I was like, I almost wanted to make a joke about it, but then again, it actually kind of speaks to the speed of which we can go from concept to physical manifestation. Right? Then it's an upload of a file online. Next thing you know, hospitals are downloading it, printing it out, and then putting it on. You know what I mean? That's why I was like, I started to crack a joke, but then I started to think about it. I was like, no, this is actually ingenious.
A 2014 study from the American Society for Microbiology looked at how the contamination of just a single doorknob or tabletop could result in the spread of viruses throughout the healthcare facilities, hospitals, and office buildings. A tracer virus was placed on those two commonly touched surfaces at the beginning of the day in a healthcare facility and an office building. And after a few hours, researchers sampled up to 100 fomites which are surfaces capable of carrying infectious organisms, including light switches, bed rails, push buttons, coffee pot handles, sink tap handles, doorknobs, phones, and computer equipment. Within 2 to 4 hours, between 40% to 60% of those surfaces were sampled were contaminated. 60%. It's an easy, quick fix. Quertfield says one of the hands-free door handle attachments, noting that the design also doesn't require a lot of testing or rigorous safety production measures like 3D printed face masks or ventilator valves would, to ensure that they would work and are as safe as possible. Materialize is in the process of developing designs to 3D print other devices that can be used in medical settings during the COVID-19 crisis, especially as hospitals face immense shortages, but those designs are awaiting the proper trials before the company makes those files available. Hands-free door openers aren't new. These sort of attachments have long been important for disability accessibility, and many of the responses to the coronavirus pandemic have been things that the disabled community has already been practicing or has previously asked for, from remote learning to work from home accommodations. For facilities that don't already have such accessible hands-free door handles in place, a 3D printable coupe option is an easy add-on, and in time of crisis like the spread of COVID-19, and quick adaptations are especially important. So COVID-19 has now been industrialized.
Mm-hmm.
It has been completely industrialized. Anybody who's involved in anything has profited from this whole entire pandemic. Everybody, especially Zoom.
If anybody, I was going to say, if anybody has profited the most, it was Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom has benefited greatly. AWS has benefited greatly. Microsoft Azure platform has benefited greatly. A lot of fitness distributors who sell equipment now have benefited. You know, they're seeing surges, 80% in a surge in equipment sales for fitness equipment to work out from home.
Right.
You know, it's amazing how many winners and losers there are in this whole entire pandemic. Whoever sells these masks at Home Depot for painters masks, you know, with their Dutch Boy and Krylon, you know, sort of paints. These people are using these masks for, you know, a pandemic that doesn't actually comply.
Yeah, I'm seeing like full on like paint shop, like auto shop paint mask. Like people are at Walmart wearing them. You know, but I mean, this right here, man. You know, this also might kind of speaks to fourth industrialization, right? Like a company that basically just has like a team of designers and engineers who have the ability to, you know, pull up their laptop, pull up, you know, 3D Sketch, or I'm trying to think some of those 3D CAD programs like SketchUp or Markup, I think it's called.
CAD, PTC.
Yeah, right. Prototype a design, boom, hit the button, print it out, test it. Right. You could do this literally in real time. Test it out, right? Make the file available, license it out, boom, you're making money. You know, it's like you're going from proof of concept to deployment in a very, very short amount of time. Think about how it used to be. You know, you had an idea, then you went and, you know, maybe you had to go and file it with the patent office, then it had to come back, then you went and sourced a manufacturer. Then they made some prototypes. Then you tested it and you said, yes, this is the one that works. And then they ran that one. Then you got a whole bunch back. And then you found a distributor. And then the distributor, dude, we've condensed it.
Yeah. The blockchain is your patent office.
There you go.
Vision has his hand up. Go ahead, Vision.
Yeah, this is just a quick one, Mike. You just mentioned something like I sort of remember Skype. I don't really use it anymore, but what you just said about Zoom, and I've been on StreamYard. That's with the duck. StreamYard is called, I think, that one. And you have Zoom. Um, uh, I don't know if this is a fair question for you guys. Are we able to invest in those companies? And would it be a good idea to maybe invest in stocks in those companies if you're capable? I don't know if that's a good question.
Let's give the disclaimer first. We are not certified public accountants. If you want to get one of those, go to cfp.net. Is that what it is, Mike?
Yeah, we're not certified financial planners, so you want to.
Yeah, certified financial planners. So yeah, go there if you want that. With that being said, a lot of people are investing in Zoom because of all of this stuff. So
Yeah.
Well, I would say you have to invest in the learning management systems. Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle. Blackboard is making a killing right now because that's how a lot of content is being uploaded. And this pandemic, there used to be classes they never thought could go online. This is going to lead to the elimination of a lot of faculty and a lot of teachers in schools because they're like, well, the kids we can upload it online and they can somebody else can teach them, pay them half the money. So that's the downside to a lot of this.
They're actually talking about leveraging AI as teaching assistants in math because it's so quick because it can calculate just as fast as you give it the data.
Yeah, it's this pandemic, I talked about it last night on the stream, is just going to open up a world of opportunity. But because the biggest thing before this happened, there were classes and they said, well, you can't put that chemistry lab online. How? Because if you do a chemistry lab or physics lab, you have to have one, not lab, the actual class. In college, you have to do a day or so to actually go do the lab and do the experiments. But now they're forced to do it. And it's changing a lot of schools' perspective on things like, wow, we actually can outsource a lot of this stuff instead of paying a tenured faculty $150,000 a year to come here and talk trash. We could just let some adjunct person teach it and get rid of them.
the industrial shift is underway.
I tell people, man, it's coming.
It's here, man. It's here.
It's coming, and we were saying earlier before you got on, there are going to be winners and losers. And if you can grasp on what's coming on, there is no reason why people should be able to be a millionaire in less than 5 years, because what's about to happen, if not 5 to 7 years by the year 2030, because the way the world is about to advance, we're in the third industrial revolution and the world has to advance. It cannot stay where it's at, and it's slowly doing it, and it's doing it now. I never thought a virus would have the world on standstill like it is now, but it's forcing people to be very competitive and forcing people to think outside the box. And we're going to see a lot of things come out of this, and people are like, wow, I didn't know we could do that. And a lot of telework, a lot of brick and mortar companies, a lot of companies pay a lot of operational expenses. They're like, hell, we'll just have 200 y'all sit at home and just pay to get bigger bandwidth, let y'all go through a VPN and work. You could save $2 to $3 million a month on operational expenses, which is $20 to $30 million a year.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
So there are a lot of people, we were also saying that are not going to go back to work. And I hope people are at home trying to figure out ways to make money or come up with a better way, because a lot of people are not going to go back to work. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, permanent unemployment is very much a reality. And Black people are going to be disproportionately impacted by all out of this because especially Black men, their labor is just not wanted in a lot of areas if it's not skilled. We just don't need a bunch of strong Negroes picking up boxes anymore.
Excuse me.
I got to add that to my, when I talk to people, I got to add that in there now.
We just don't need that.
We don't need a bunch of Paul Bunyans around anymore. We got people in cheese that can do that.
I mean, we have robots that can do that.
Yeah.
Man.
No, they just had a robot competition this week or the other day where they were testing out the exoskeletons of these suits. You had these frail people with these exoskeletons that were able to pick up boxes more weight than what they normally would pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's blue collar, white collar, all of these things are going to be attacked. But the thing that gets me, a lot of black men and black people are not seeing what's happening, and they're out here making social video, they're making videos and on crap and not collaborating like we are, trying to sit here and say, well, we need to try to find a way to capitalize off of this. You got people being idiots on TikTok when it's a Chinese owned application. And I've told people millions of times, stop putting videos on TikTok. It's owned by China. And people get on there and do stupid things. I said, you need to be figuring out a way. I said, how I look at it, people have prayed a lot to say, hey, I need time to think for myself. Companies are paying you to sit at home for right now. You need to realize, you need to figure out, when this is over, how can I capitalize and get out of my situation of going back to work, being stuck in the grind of a job I hate, instead of getting on here, taking pictures of yourself, trying to say, ooh, I need likes and stuff. Those are going to be the people that are affected, and they're going to be crying out saying, well, how can you guys help me? What were you doing for the 2 to 3 months the company had you sitting at home, paying you just to do nothing?
Yeah, I mean, especially the level of where artificial intelligence is right now. I mean, it's incredible, some of the stuff that it can do. I have a credit card. I forget which one it was now. It might have been American Express or Chase. And this is like the other day, I had a issue with the website or the app or something like that, and I needed some help. And it, how they are, they don't want you calling customer service and talking to a human. And this artificial intelligence AI chatbot popped up, and I gave it a few, gave it a brief description, and it actually gave back a resolution that was functional. And I thought that was pretty interesting. That usually when you talk to a chatbot, it's a pretty lengthy process. It's pretty drawn out. This was done in less than 30 seconds. I was like, thank you. It reset my password and gave me my credentials. Amazing. I was pretty impressed by that. I'm a tech guy myself, and I haven't seen anything like that done before anywhere else. So,
it's like buying car insurance now. Agent, for one thing, I've seen, if you go, I don't like to go in a bank. I rarely went, but brick and mortar banks don't have tellers. When you think about it, I can take a picture of a check with my phone and deposit it. My paycheck is direct deposit. If I want to buy a car, I do the application online, go to the dealership. They can send the check to me and I go pick the car up. If I want to apply for a mortgage for a house, I do it online. The only reasons I think banks are still open is for the baby boomers, because they like to have that interaction. But for people our age, we're like, hell, if I don't have to go into the bank, and you're like me, I don't carry cash. If you lose your credit card, you can cancel it. If you lose $100, you're gonna be like, oh shit, where's my money at? But I use my phone every time, I use my pay. I make sure even if I leave my wallet at home, I have the NFC thing, the NFC, where you can use the Apple Pay. I said, I try to use all of that. People don't realize, you can still pay for stuff when you leave your wallet someplace. But for the baby boomers, they like that interaction. People our age are like, I don't have to go in the bank and talk to nobody. Man, please, I can do everything. If we wanted to go buy a $150,000 Mercedes right now, they will have this car to our house tomorrow or the latest by Wednesday. You never have to leave your house.
Just go to Carvana.
Yep.
Yeah, even Lincoln delivers the car to you.
Lincoln will do it. They'll do it too.
Yeah, Lincoln will deliver the car to you at your job and pick you up too, and take you to the dealership, or they'll drop it off at your house. That's the kind of service that they have now.
Golly, it used to be a big field for bankers. I'm like, huh? You're a loan officer. I mean, somebody has to process it, but you physically talking to somebody to get, because there's an algorithm ran for the 3 credit bureaus that's going to see what your credit score is. Well, as long as you're paying your bills on time, your credit to debt ratio isn't high, you should have a pretty good credit score. And you say, well, I need a credit card, I need to get a house, I need to do this. So
well, there's actually a dealership. These exotic car dealerships, though, they actually accept Bitcoin now.
Wow.
So you don't even have to have credit. If you have Bitcoin or some kind of actual cryptocurrencies, you can buy a car now. They accept it. Let me go to Jay first, and then we'll go to Vision. Brother
Yo.
Jay.
Yeah, he muted.
Yeah, Brother Jay, what you say?
Brother Jay.
Let's go to Vision.
Mike, you just covered something very important. That exoskeleton thing. The
Mhm.
reason was like back to when you were talking about that smart village, and I coined it a smart city. I was like, man, if I'm gonna leave this, North America and say forget it, I've had enough. I'm going back to Africa or going to South America and then try to help build this. How am I gonna do it? Because I have bad knees. Basketball, of course, wrists are not so good. And I was like, man, I would have to get myself an exoskeleton if I'm gonna, because I remember there was a military. I remember watching a military documentary where the military has prototypes of these exoskeletons that you were speaking of, and so I just find it fascinating. I remember watching Aliens 2 when Sigourney Weaver was beating up the alien with that exoskeleton, that construction one, and then District 9, and like it's just amazing how this technology is real. So like I'm gonna look more into that exoskeleton thing you were just talking about, how it's going to put it is going to put black men out of how but anyway, the other thing that I want to say, your observation on what do you guys see with the networks? Because I'm on YouTube all day, everybody's streaming, everybody's working from home. How is that, how are the networks across the globe handling that? Have you guys looked into that at all or no?
They've already reached their capacity. We talked about this last week on a con call.
Okay.
Most of
I'll go check it out.
Capacity. Let's go to let's go to Jay. He got his hand up.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I lost my window. So many windows open.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned stocks. I think that was Rose. Sorry if I mispronounced your name there. I just want to share something with you. The top supermarkets by EBT spending are Walmart, Target, Aldi, and Kroger in that order. We've already seen that Walmart reach an all-time high a couple weeks ago. So other than technology, I would look out for grocery stores.
Oh yeah.
That receive EBT, especially because we see the unemployment numbers. It's nuts.
Staples as they call them, staples.
Yep. So yeah, good chat. I wish I was available for the chat you had yesterday. I'm a Jamaican historian, amateur Jamaican historian, so there's a few things I think I could have added to and cleared up.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting that you bring up the retails, because now you're starting to see, I saw that Amazon Go stores and even Whole Foods is now starting to accept EBTs and all that stuff now, over the wire now. So, these shop cart sort of delivery services now doesn't sound all that fictional. Now it's a reality that
Instacart look for them to be looking for a lot of delivery people.
Yeah, and the point that I was making was that we're at a point now where all this social distancing, everybody can shop at the same store now without actually leaving the house. And I'm thinking that you may not need cashiers anymore.
Nope. Remember, I talked about that last night. The bad attitude chicks, obsolete.
So one other thing, if I could say one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing I've been watching the last few years is the pet industry. I took this opportunity to pick up like some of my favorite pet stocks I've been watching. I noticed a general trend, like I'm a millennial. Most of my friends don't have kids, but they all have animals. I did some research. Pet ownership is the highest it's ever been among millennials. And analysts have found that pet stocks during the 08-09 crash actually outperformed the S&P 500 because people aren't going to let their dog starve.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So this is America.
Do they consider Pookie to be a pet too?
I don't know about that, but yeah, man, watch the pet stocks because they are replacing children. Especially if they cut down on this immigration. We're just gonna have a bunch of dogs.
Yeah, they call them fur babies now.
Yeah, it's actually quite sick. I knew I had to jump in. I was at the supermarket and I saw like a lady with her like kid and a dog, and she was like, "Hug your little brother" or something like that. I was like, "Whoa, I need to go buy some PetSmed and CTS immediately."
Oh yeah, Ukanuba, IAMS. Iams food products.
Iams food products.
Petco,
There's
Pet IQ, Chewy. The
there's
IPO. I don't know if you guys follow the IPOs.
No, I don't follow those. I don't follow those IPOs.
Is that the one where it's like a web-based kind of like gourmet pet food company?
No, Chewy is a online pharmacy,
For animals.
but they're kind of like one of these new tech. It's like a startup kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of rave about them. The IPO came out last year, and it's been doing pretty well, pretty good.
Yeah, there's a pet food company. I don't know. I was very intrigued by them. I'm not sure why, but they kind of have like you know those meal planning companies, right? Where they send you some stuff in a box.
Yep.
Right. Okay. They do the same thing with pet food, but this is like all like real supreme high end type stuff. So people have been raving about. I gotta look them up and find that company, but we'll have to revisit this in the economics.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that.
Mike wants. I know you want to get to this.
No, because Johnny Blaze has his hand up.
Oh, okay.
Good point that Jay was bringing up.
Okay.
Jay Blaze.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, dude?
What up?
Hey, not too much. Hey, no, the other guy earlier with the whole education piece, he's correct, man, because we're learning now. We just had a meeting today. Pretty much don't expect to go back into the classroom no time soon.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
Are you worried, Jay Blaze?
Me personally, I'm not personally worried for me directly, but my job is a hands-on piece. At some point, I do have to get back in there to do the labs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can teach the physics, outside of the classroom, but the hands-on stuff, because we deal with patients, at some point we got to start practicing on real people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the part that does scare me.
Now, see, that's an interesting point, because if you can't get young Black folks in the classroom to pay attention, what's going to happen when they go remote? They be over there slacking off, man, doing what you want to do.
Listening to live streams.
Yeah. So right now, you know what I got to do? Like today, my student took a test. So I'm up there actually online watching them take the test today. Thursday, I got to sit there and watch them take a 3-hour test.
Mm-hmm.
I am not looking forward to doing that whatsoever. But I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still learning the actual software that we're going through. We're trying to get all these different nuances down, but I still got a bunch of older instructors who are not tech savvy. We're constantly helping these folks out. So I see some folks going to probably end up getting let go at some point, those who can't keep up.
Right.
Y'all using Blackboard or Canvas?
Yeah, we use Canvas. Supposedly we're going to go back to Moodle.
Oh, okay.
I'm here, so now it's kind of
wasn't Moodle open source at one point?
I've never used Moodle. When I got hired on, they did the switch over to Canvas. But from what I understand, my IT guy tells me that Moodle was much better because it was designed by actual instructors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike Shinnery in the chat says they canceled Arizona schools for the rest of the year.
Damn.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
They were kind of talking about that here. They're deploying Chromebooks, basically all from 3rd grade and up. So I have a feeling they're not going back this year out here.
Well, that's an interesting point, because they deploy all these Chromebooks, but the people the students that they're deploying the Chromebooks to don't have fast internet access. They're, basically leeching off of whatever Wi-Fi is available to them.
Exactly. So now I'm going. So I told you, I don't know if you guys remember, but my school's network went down. We still have no Wi-Fi at the physical buildings, so it's basically dead.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
We got hit with a virus, man. I think it's
a DOS attack. It's a DOS attack.
Yeah. So something jacked the whole system up.
Holy shit!
But I got a couple of older instructors who don't have Wi-Fi in their home. They don't have internet, and they have old flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
So this
you're saying this.
So this person has been driving around, going to, finding Wi-Fi, parking lots and hot spots and trying to teach.
Yeah. Now they're starting to see why public Wi-Fi access is critical. You know, this has been pushed back many times before that it should, you know, who needs internet?
It should be a public utility. That's what's been argued this whole time.
Yeah,
Right.
Google is considered a utility. Facebook is considered a utility. Why wouldn't broadband access be considered a utility? But see, go ahead.
Well, I live in a rural area in South Carolina, and my internet, I still have DSL. So
Holy
that's
shit,
it.
really?
Well,
Dang.
he must live pretty far out.
Wait, Mike, when were we just talking about DSL like yesterday or Saturday or something?
Well, I'm able to be on you. That's why when I was starting to do YouTube streams. I'm like, I hope my server, because I got the TV going, I got the Xbox going. I'm pushing this thing to its limits, and everything is still going. But where I live at in South Carolina, in the country, I have DSL, and I know sometimes my internet will buffer because I have Hulu Live. You know, I got rid of the satellite, so I know what the bandwidth. I said I want to see. And to be honest, I did a speed test. I get like 4 megabytes per second. I'm like, well, it ain't lagging. Well, it could be worse, but it's working. That's all that matters. You know, I know y'all remember the old days of dial-up. You know, somebody would call and knock the phone offline, but
56K.
But
let's go to Vivian because she has a hand up. She's
okay.
Vivian.
Oh, thank you, fellas. Thank you so much. Okay, that DSL was funny. Okay, with the dial-up, that was a good one. Okay, but I wanted to, as I've been listening to you all and speaking about this subject, we all have to remember with AI and machine learning that our young people, it's amazing how much they know. However, they don't feel like it's classified as artificial intelligence. I'm constantly finding myself explaining to my teenagers that, okay, when you're in the Walmart line that doesn't have a cashier there, that's AI, okay? You know, or I'm constantly explaining to the older people, okay, when they say cloud-based technology or you're in the cloud, they don't mean the cloud up in the sky. They mean that building right there with no windows in it, okay? That's what that is. You know, just trying to explain to the different ages of our people, you know, what this is and what that is and what this is. When you talk about the professor who doesn't have Wi-Fi at his home, to me, he's a legacy change management person that I need to reach. Because when I go in for change management and explaining in presentations what change management is to the legacy people, I also have the millennials in there. So I have 2 change management curves, one with emojis on it and the other one with words on it. So I can make sure everybody understands what I mean by change management. And we have to be able to explain to the younger people and the older people in our world exactly what is going on with artificial intelligence and machine learning, because whether they like it or not, it's being rammed down their throats right now, especially with our young people in school. It's being rammed down their throats. They're doing it every day. They do it on their phones. But when you ask them about, okay, do you want to go into computer programming? Okay, do you want to be an architect, a computer architect of some type? They look at you like, hell no. All I want to do is sit up here and play this PlayStation.
Oh, well, and that's a part of the issue because Black people have, now they're saying if you can't operate LinkedIn or you can't operate certain pieces of technology, you're considered to be an illiterate, a functional illiterate.
Yes.
I think a lot of Black people in the next, you know, between now and 2022, if they don't figure some of this stuff out, they may find themselves in a position where they're just basically functional illiterates, you know?
Well, the
AI,
thing, Mike.
instead of AI,
please, let me just get this out. Keep in mind that we are a very, very intelligent people, because even the dude standing out in the corner selling crack cocaine can pull out an iPhone and show you everything you want to even know about TikTok and Facebook and everything else on his phone. So we are not a stupid people, but it's just that the way that is being presented to us is in a way that all of us cannot understand, all of us together. Some of us can, you know, because we're in it. We're IT people. Of course we can understand. But to the young man standing out on the corner, he has no idea how intelligent he is when it comes to IT, artificial intelligence, machine learning. He has no idea that he is actually doing it already. It's just a matter of being able to apply it to something that will allow him to make money. And he's probably already got an idea, and we just sitting here, but he could become the next billionaire.
Well,
he doesn't even know.
Yeah, there's a difference between AI and NI. NI is just Negro intelligence. They can consume the technology, but they can't actually drive the technology at all. Go ahead. Who's
No, I was damn, dude. All right. Well, you kind of beat me to it, man. Damn.
Well,
No,
that is true. That a lot of Black people can consume the technology. They can iPhone. They can do a lot of things with the applications. But what happens when it's time to actually drive the technology? There are no show, no call.
Well, I was gonna say, like, there's having so there, you can have a general overall intelligence and an understanding of the technology, right? But then you have a deeper understanding of it, which then leads you to being a developer of it. And what we don't do is we don't get into the developer side of it. We figure out what we need to figure out in order to get what we need to get out of it, right? We take the short route like we do with every goddamn thing else. And we don't approach technology from a let me understand how this came to be so that I can make something that when I think of something in my head, I can create it, right? That's not the position we take. Like we use the app for something, right? The app is just basically utility. So let me just figure out what I need to use with it, or how to figure out how I need to use it in order to get what I want out of it. But we're not actually creating it for the person who wants to do that. And that's the problem. We're like a step removed, and we don't tech isn't important to us in that regard. It's only important to us like it is to the average everyday Joe.
Well, even from a business application perspective, you think about Black people who flip houses. Yeah, they flip the house, but they don't understand building code.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand building materials. And so there's always this sort of this disconnect, because there's always this sort of quick, fast money scheme that they're always looking at. If I do this, then I get this much money. It's never about how do I take this and drive it further, beyond its capabilities. It's unfortunate, but that's what gets Black people left behind from an industrialization standpoint. Let me read off this article real quick, and then we'll finish it up. This is the last one.
Okay.
All right, this is from Forbes: 10 business functions that are ready to use artificial intelligence. Speaking of artificial intelligence, in the grand scheme of things, artificial intelligence is still in the very early stages of adoption by most organizations. However, most leaders are quite excited to implement AI into their company's business functions to start realizing its extraordinary benefits. While we have no way of knowing all the ways artificial intelligence and machine learning will ultimately impact business functions, here are 10 business functions that are ready to use artificial intelligence: marketing, sales, research and development. What about artificial intelligence as a tool of innovation? It can help us build a deeper understanding in nearly any industry, including healthcare and pharmaceuticals and financial, automotive, and more, while collecting and analyzing tremendous amounts of information efficiently and accurately. This and machine learning can help us research problems and develop solutions that we've never thought of before. AI can automate many tasks, but it will also open the door to novel discoveries, ways of improving products and services, as well as accomplishing tasks. Artificial intelligence helps R&D activities be more strategic and effective. IT operations, that's a given. AI ops, we talked about that before. Human resources, we talked about this before, the ability of AI to look through all these resumes that are coming in and scour the internet and places like LinkedIn and Indeed, look for people's resumes, can actually, the AI ops, from an ops perspective, from an operations perspective, they can actually draw out the whole entire process and have a phone call set up for you and actually do an interview over Skype or something like that. So keep that in mind. Contact centers. The contact center of an organization is another business area where artificial intelligence is already in use. Organizations that use AI technology to enhance rather than replace humans with these tasks are the ones that are incorporating artificial intelligence in the right way. These sensors collect a tremendous amount of data that can be used to learn more about customers, predict customer intent, and improve the next best action for the customer for better customer engagement. Yeah, I talked about this a few minutes ago about I think I had a Chase card or American Express card last week where I got locked out of the app, and then I needed to get I had actually lost my credit card, and I needed to have a new credit card sent and actually have my credentials reset. And the AI bot, the chat bot, was actually able to manage all of this without talking to a human. I thought that was pretty significant from a tech perspective. Building maintenance. Another way AI is already at work in businesses today is helping facility managers optimize energy use and the comfort of occupants. Building automation, the use of artificial intelligence to help manage buildings and control lighting and heating, cooling systems, HVAC, uses Internet of Things devices, IoT, and sensors, as well as computer vision to monitor buildings. Based upon the data that is collected, the AI system can adjust the building systems to accommodate for the number of occupants, time of day, and more. AI helps facilities managers improve the energy efficiency of the building. Yeah, one of the studies, researches that we did a couple of years ago, if the company enabled the AI to manage the lights and the HVAC around the building and the computers too. So what would happen with the desktops were they would send the computers to sleep after about 90 seconds of you being away from your computer, and the monitors and everything, the entire environment, everything would go dim. They were able to save $150,000 a year on energy costs just off of that solution alone, which I found was amazing, just to let the AI do it itself. So AI pays for itself in that area. Manufacturing, we know that AI and manufacturing works. Heineken, along with many other companies, use data analytics at every stage of the manufacturing process, from supply chain to tracking inventory on store shelves. Predictive intelligence can not only anticipate demand and ramp production up or down, but sensors on equipment can predict maintenance needs. AI helps flag areas of concern in the manufacturing process before costly issues erupt. Machine vision can also support the quality process at manufacturing facilities. Very true. Accounting and finance, we know that AI is already taken over this. So that's a given. Customer experience. Another way artificial intelligence, technology, and big data are used in businesses today is to improve the customer experience. Luxury fashion brand Burberry uses big data and AI to enhance sales and customer relationships. The company gathers shoppers' data through loyalty and rewards programs that they then use to offer tailored recommendations, whether customers are shopping online or in brick and mortar stores. Innovative uses of chatbots during industry events are another way to provide a stellar customer experience. I just talked about chatbots a few seconds ago. So very much incorporated in most businesses today. And I think that Black people should be looking at their next business as being a tech-based business. I don't care if you're running a barbershop. There should be an app where I can set an appointment and I don't have to wait in line next to some flunky to get my my wig split. So anybody else have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I have about the artificial intelligence. Excuse me. Yes, about the manufacturing and all the other things. A lot of Black folks need to get aware. You know, I live down in the South, and manufacturing. You know, I talked about this last night in my dissertation about the South is the central hub for manufacturing. That's what my dissertation is about. There are so many people down here that work manufacturing jobs till it's scary. And I've randomly asked people, hey, do you know your job can be automated? They were like, huh? They wouldn't do that. And I've explained to them a company would invest $200 million to get a yield of three to 4 billion. They don't care about eliminating you out of the process. I said, please take heed of this and remember that your job can be automated. And people overlook these processes and they say, well, this job was always here to be here. You know, you've been saying tonight, Mike, that people are blind, black people are blind to things and they don't take things serious. We just like you were talking about the people with selling the houses. Well, I can flip a house, but do I know the building code, the kind of pipes that have to be in here? Well, this house may have asbestos in it. I can't sell the house with this. The plumbing is messed up. I gotta get the electrical panels redone. And people don't think about that till it's too late. And the thing about most people that work manufacturing jobs, like on assembly lines, they only have a high school diploma, or some of them don't even have any education. And the scary thing is, when their jobs are gone, I feel sad for them. In the South, you know, wages aren't that high as it is. So if you've been making $12 or $13 an hour and your job is gone, what are you going to do? You can't move to another town, because if you're making $12 an hour, once you factor in taxes, you might get $7 an hour. How are you going to feed yourself off of 7 times 40 is $280? How are you going to feed yourself and your family off $280? And artificial intelligence is finding a way, and machine learning is, they have now in some factories what they call collaborative robots, to where they work with somebody and they learn the process. How, what somebody said?
No, instead of cobot, it's what they call it, cobot.
Yeah. They have a robot that'll work with you and say, well, if the human is doing it like this, I can do an algorithm and figure out a way to do it faster to eliminate 3 seconds. And we don't see that coming. I asked somebody in another factory, they said, well, they already got that robot in there. They already have that kind of technology and it's eliminating people. I asked her, are any of the black people in there trying to find out, you know, is their job at stake? She said, no, they just come to work and do whatever, because they can drive this Chevy on the weekend. They can go to these little festivals around here and put these 30-inch floaters on their cars or whatnot. She said, that's all they want to do. They're not on task on learning about how their job might not be here. Because in South Carolina, we have 2 big companies close to where I live. It's called Bridgestone and Michelin. And both of you, and everybody knows on the panel, they make tires. Well, tires, making tires for vehicles, you know, they make all kinds of tires. So they employ a lot of people. And a lot of the people make a lot of money, but the health conditions, if OSHA was to come in there, they probably would shut them down for what we've heard. But a lot of those people work very hard for their money. And they won't leave the job. Some people have left the jobs because they said it's manufacturing, and they said all they care about is output, 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 output. And the younger people my age, I try to say to them, you are in your 30s. Why aren't you in college trying to get a trade or go to the military or try to do something? They'll say, well, you know, I make more than some money than somebody with a degree. That was always the analogy. So now you find yourself, when you get older, switching job to job to job to job to try to keep up. And, you know, usually if you leave one job, you don't start at that same salary when you start another one. Hello?
Yeah. I'm here. This is Vivian.
Oh, okay. I thought Mike muted himself. Yes, yeah, that's what's going on down here in South Carolina. We're facing that, and I try to tell a lot of the black folks this is what's about to come. But you know, a lot of them don't want to listen to me.
No, because they think they can shuck and jive, you know, their way through the whole entire industrial complex, man. It's not going to work that way anymore. You can get away in the third industrial complex, you know, from the 60s and 70s of internet connectivity and automation. You could have gotten away with that. But now, if you don't figure it out now, you can be highly displaced and highly disrupted by this whole entire industrial complex if you don't figure this out by 2030. There's a lot of see, I'm not worried about the Gen Xers. I'm not worried about the people in their 40s and 50s. I'm not worried about them. It's the young millennials and the zennials who are going to be very angry that nobody left any sort of ideas or blueprint behind for them of where they should go. And they're going to pick up a firearm before they can get a job. And they're going to come look for, you know, those who have more than they do.
Well, the baby boomers, you know, they're close to retire. Most of the baby boomers are like, I got a 401k, I got a pension, I don't have anything to worry about. So people my age, I'm 35, you try to talk to them and they're like, well, I don't know what, you know, we've said this on this chat and I say it all the time. A lot of people are not going back to work. I don't know how many people are not going to go back to work, but I know people are not about to go back to work.
I think
somebody mentioned.
I heard an estimate of 47 million.
You know, there's only so many jobs in the United States and there's only so many people. So competition is about to get fierce. And it used to be about 6 months ago, the problem was, I don't know if this is true or not. They said, we have the jobs, but we don't have qualified people. It always used to be, we don't have the jobs, but we got qualified people. So I want to know which one it is.
I apologize for the interruption, but please don't forget about the 1.8 million H-1B visas, EB visas, and I just found out about the L visas they bring in. Those are the construction workers from, Ireland and all them other places. Tricked me out. Please don't forget, there are about 4 million legal non-immigrant visas that we are also competing against because they don't want to see blackface. They never have, and this was their way to do it. So it's in all manufacturing, everything.
So we're up for a fight once this pandemic ends. It was already a fight, but this coronavirus is going to make it even worse.
And gentlemen, I hate to say this, but I'm one of those executives that actually they come to me and say, how can we actually take this and make it an AI, machine learning, do something? Because I'm in IT service management, so I look at the whole entire organization or company. For 3 call centers, I can take it to 1 just by using chatbots. That's what I do. I put the coding in and make sure that the developers have the chatbot that I want.
Well, we have a big call center. I see Jay Blaze. I'm gonna say this so they can talk. I see down here we have a T-Mobile call center, and we just know it's full of Tatianas. When a new phone comes out, they'll say, "Well, I can get paid. I get a lot of money because a new iPhone came out." Anything in life you can walk off the street and do really doesn't pay any money. That's just my opinion. And if you can walk into a call center and say, well, I can out earn the people that actually went to college, went to the military, that earned a trade or some kind of certificate, I said, that's not going to last. That is temporary. So they're riding around and going around with all these multicolored hairstyles. You see them in the next joint in town saying, I work at the T-Mobile call center. And now all of them sitting at home. And you want to ask them, well, if they close the T-Mobile call center, what y'all gonna do for money?
They're gonna be calling the call center.
That's true.
You guys hiring?
Let's go to Johnny Blaze. He got his hand up.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm just thinking of an idea, a solution. If anybody's interested, you know, one of the things that we're going to need in education, particularly on the healthcare side, since we're limited with this pandemic, we need simulators, virtual simulators, something that can either be worn like a headset that can mimic students messing around with the human body.
Man, Mr. Hard Fork Rich in the chat, he is the resident VR SME guy. He speaks a lot about it. So okay. I think you're on.
So what you're speaking to is AR though, augmented reality.
Right. Yeah. Now, I'm gonna try to link it back to AI, but I mean using the VR to do the training, but I definitely see the AI going through doing the correcting piece because I know we're already using it in some healthcare. I know we use it to like read mammograms, for instance. Mm-hmm. That's designed to go back and it reads behind the doctor to make sure they don't miss anything. Mm-hmm. And I also know that they're using it in a lot of protocols, like when somebody comes into the emergency room, the doctor will look at, okay, what are your symptoms, what's going on, and the computer will basically tell them, okay, they have this, order these x-rays, order these labs, prescribe these drugs based on the information. That's all AI technology that's going on.
And BlackBerry. BlackBerry as well. That's what the doctors are using, the Blackberries, in order to be. BlackBerry has cornered the market on that.
Wow, didn't know that. But I tell you, and you know, I just thought about this. I know the meeting that they had with some of the admin staff. I can see college admissions probably being ousted due for AI.
Oh yeah, they put all that stuff on the blockchain.
Yeah, and pretty much the admission staff goes bye-bye.
Man.
And you know, and that's where you see a lot of the people in there. And nothing against the admin folks, I ain't gonna lie, but sometimes them folks remind me of used car salesmen.
Yeah, they serve the role. They serve the role at some point, but my hospital actually uses a kiosk to bring patients in. So you put your credentials in, or you put your biometric thumbprint in. It knows who you are, and it calls your doctor automatically. And it says your doctor will be out in 2 minutes. And you sit and wait.
Electronic health care,
Yep.
EHR, electronic health records. They're here. They've taken over that as well. And here's another one. China, they don't really, and it gets on my nerves, I have to say this, because they probably stole it. But anyway, they're virtualizing the journalists that are on the news. The newscasts are becoming virtualized.
Yeah.
So you have a lot.
Very elaborate CGI.
Yes, and the universities, a lot of those professors are going to go bye-bye anyway, because if they can virtualize it in that manner, that's what they're going to do. And a lot of these universities are going to be downsizing. So whoever said that, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because you already got a hologram of Tupac at these concerts with a bandana on it.
So
Oh my God.
You ain't shit, dude.
Okay, that was funny.
No.
I'm not ready to leave this. I'm not ready to leave this job just yet. I've only been in it for 3 years. Let me get a little more teaching under my belt first.
All they need is cashing out there with them next, and it's good.
Put a
Now,
bandana on your head.
guys, now we could just get the federal government to catch up with everything, because they're like 30 years behind. I think we might be able to do something.
Oh no!
Oh my goodness!
Oh no, Vivian. When I was over in Africa 2 weeks ago, when I was in Joburg, and they were having this conversation about replacing government with AI.
Really?
Yeah, a technocratic society run by AI. AI.
Wow.
You put all of your regulatory frameworks and processes on the blockchain with smart contracts and AI for the government, and the AI, based on the data that is fed, would make the decision. No need for human government anymore. Those are the conversations that they were having. These are Black people having these conversations.
You know,
Mike,
Mike,
you gotta realize, man, look, in something where you've had long history of turmoil and, you know, civil wars and destabilization and all that. I mean, you see, I hate to be that guy, right? Who speaks to the pros of let's just say a third party arbiter in the form of artificial intelligence to like just basically streamline shit that humans just can't seem to get a grasp of, for the sole sake of progression. Now, I get that there, there's that Pandora's box that we can open up, right? But we've already seen the Pandora's box that opens up when you just leave it to humans. So, I'm a fan of deployment of these type of solutions, done intelligently. But if we just kind of leave humans to do certain things, we'll actually go backwards.
Well, the idea here is that there's so much corruption with government that the AI would just not have any emotions, and it can't be bribed.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, you can actually replace these human issues with AI and have a government and have no need for elections anymore.
Think about it, dude. One dumbass politician can literally set things back 20 to 30 years.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's true, but guess what?
Mhm.
There's that one dumbass programmer that can put in an algorithm that can mess everybody up too.
Well, that's why you have a council, right? You have a committee, a oversight committee that looks over that.
Yeah, see there, Vivian.
Humans are good for something. Humans are good for something.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Humans have their place in all of this, but when we've seen time after time after time that there's just certain things we can't quite get a grasp of. Yeah.
Well, this solves the whole Me Too issue.
Hey, look at that.
Social distancing and lines of code.
I mean, hey.
Facts.
If it all go bad, I'm gonna just have to get one of them $10,000 or $15,000 robots, one of them sex bots, and call it a day.
Oh, it's moving in that direction, bro.
Now, that's
that's
I got a niece that I could hook you up with. She's beautiful, okay? I'm gonna help you, brother. I'm gonna help you out, brother.
She ain't having that. She ain't having that kind of talk.
Oh no, man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is it considered cheating if I cheat with a robot?
I don't know.
I would say bare minimum, it's extremely weird.
You better be lucky I'm from the ghetto. I can handle this kind of talk, okay? Oh my goodness.
Because my science will come out and say it's not science is not a living and breathing organism. So how could it be cheating?
No, like I said, it would be extremely weird.
They'll probably have a smart contract on the doll itself, and then the doll may not agree with the birth.
You know, that's becoming big. I'm joking about it on my end, but that market is getting huge.
Yeah, it's a multi-million-dollar market now, but nothing that would solve the issues in the Black community. I don't think. No.
We need some Joe Clarks in the Black community.
No, you need some robots in the community, man.
We need a RoboCop and a Joe Clark. That'll solve a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are a mess.
Oh, man, I don't think Black people are really ready for this new future, man. Drones flying around. Like I said, I was over in Africa in February for the African Drone Expo. They had some pretty sophisticated drones that they were displaying.
Dude, they were using drones. They've been using drones to sanitize shit everywhere.
Oh yeah, but these drones were African, some African-based drones that can work in platoons, what they call platoons.
Have you guys seen the blood donation drones in Rwanda?
Yeah, that's what they were there.
Mm-hmm.
They
were there.
I posted pictures of them.
Yeah, he's got pictures.
Okay, yeah. One of the main engineers actually, he's a Ugandan, I believe. He's a PhD student at Johns Hopkins.
Yep. So they were talking about flying drones from Rwanda to Ghana. New ranges that they've been able to develop. And that's why I was talking about the platoons. You would have like a dozen or so drones that are carrying these big, hefty packages, whether they're masks or respirators or whatever it is, to locations in need during crisis. And they can fly for, I think the longest range on one of those drones was something like 25 kilometers, 20 to 25 kilometers. That's pretty long for a drone to fly.
Well, I was just flipping through my LinkedIn page. They have drones now they're using to help fight fires.
Oh yeah, that's what I saw up there. It has fire extinguishers built into it. It could actually extinguish a fire at a high rise.
Yeah, I was thinking about like mail, just taking parcels of mail over the border, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of brothers who work for USPS, man, and they could find themselves out of a job soon. No need for delivering junk mail to people's doorsteps anymore. A drone would drop it off for them.
I get enough junk mail in my email.
Yeah.
Well, they purposely send it out to keep the USPS in business. So.
Well, y'all remember a couple of years ago, FedEx told the United States Postal Service, "We'll handle delivering the mail," and FedEx the United States Postal Service was like, "Hell no," because they were like, "We got the trucks and the infrastructure. We'll deliver the mail for y'all."
Yeah, the last mile. They want to do the last mile, but now Amazon is talking about buying up the United States Postal Service. So we'll
If
see.
I need something sent, I will use FedEx or UPS. I don't use U.S. Postal Service for anything. I don't trust them like that.
Oh, they're so backwards. They're so useless and backwards. It's ridiculous.
They're only
Well,
good
you
for
guys
meals
know
and
that there's
catalogs.
hey, you guys know that there's like a 150-year-old law in place that allows Amazon to use their services for like 1 cent on the dime or 1 cent on the dollar or something like that.
Wow.
And that's why Trump and Bezos are going at it, because Trump wants it to get rid of that law.
Yeah,
and
it's that old. It's the whole
a
pony.
mess.
It's the
Pony
old
Express thing.
Pony Express tax. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, when people say, hey, you can mail your letter for a penny, you literally can if you address it a certain way. I know it's some weird libertarian shit, but if you think it's purely libertarian, ask Jeff Bezos.
Yep, he's been mailing all those packages through the U.S. Postal Service, and we, the taxpayers, have been getting stuck with the bill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He gets to use our trucks, gas, facilities, all for like 1 cent on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't pay any taxes at the end of the year.
Correct. That's how come he's so filthy rich.
I'm trying to figure out how to get in that league.
I know that's right.
See, you gotta see, like, that's why we do a lot of these discussions, and we'll start deep diving into like business modeling and stuff like that, because by doing that you can learn about all of the unique creative ways to run a company. We don't get into these types of discussions because we largely relegate running companies to something that's very rudimentary. That's how we view it. But it's actually an art and a science. In business law, a company is an entity, right? And you can create any type of entity you choose to do anything you want to do. If you have the capability to manifest it, right? Give you.
Your mic is breaking up a lot.
So we have to start to. Oh, okay, I think I might be in a different area zone here. So let me mute. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you now.
I don't think you can. I understand how creating companies are actually an art.
Yeah, your mic is breaking up a little bit too much there, Complex.
Hey, this is Johnny Blaze. I want to say good night to you guys. I'm about to head out, but thank you for letting me be on.
All right, brother. You have a good one as well.
All right. Y'all take care.
Me too. I'm heading out too. Everybody have a good evening.
All right. Thank you for stopping by. I just wanted to show the drones real quick to those who have not seen it. Seen some of the photos. Let me share my screen real quick and then we'll close out. So that's one of the drones from there. This is this is one of the drones that it's multi-purpose, so it can lift itself and then it propel itself forward. And it does have artificial intelligence built into it. So you can see in the back, it says surveying and mapping, security and surveillance, and precision farming. It does have a payload bay in there. It's probably about the size of 2 fists. So maybe you might carry vials of medicines in there. Let me see the other one.
And Mike, sorry for interrupting, but you notice the 2 dudes that are behind there. What do they look like?
Oh, well, they're working with the governments. So some of them are from universities and some of them are,
I just happened to notice they were Asian. I don't know if they were Japanese, Chinese, or Korean, but I just noticed they were East Asians. But that's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of Koreans. Koreans trying to sell their technology. But there's some Africans there too. I just didn't get a lot of them on photo for whatever reason. Point I'm making here is that the drone expo was actually pretty good. This is another similar drone. Does have multiple bays on there. So vertical lift and takeoff, and then propels itself forward with the propeller in the back. So what's the other one?
Oh, that's a cool looking one right there.
Yeah, I thought there's another one too. I don't know if I got a picture of it or not. No, I didn't get a picture of it. But actually, I did. I think I did. Yeah, this is actually a pretty cool one too. But this is how massive these drones get. 2.5 kilometers up to 10 kilometers in range, 30 milliseconds of delay time. Accuracy is up to 0.5 meter. So let me see if I can see. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so it uses LTE, so it does have 5G technology attached to it. GPS and all the other necessary functions to make it work on its own. You see the little iPad here that it's connected to for the dashboard when it's away, so that you can control it. And it also has artificial intelligence, and the small controller that you see here on the table is actually how you control it manually. So, and this is just one, but it works in what we call platoons.
So it can talk to other drones too.
Yeah.
Same kind of drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works in the gang.
Wow.
Yeah, it works in the gang. So that's how it.
China has a demonstration of that type of technology using drone boats. Look that video up, just China drone boats, and you'll see like this array of boats that are basically drones. And it's like some trippy stuff to watch, these boats out in the water doing this type of stuff. And I've also seen aerial arrays with large fleets of drones. Yeah, some real crazy stuff.
Yeah, and this is another one, basically a hydrogen drone. This whole entire base right here is filled up with fuel.
Wow.
Yeah, that comes in that big container, but it also, you can kind of put it together when you take it out in the field. And it had the same similar sort of manual controller, and also uses artificial intelligence. That's the camera right here. Let me zoom in right here. Camera at the bottom of it, optics camera, has facial recognition, has a long loiter time. It basically sinks into your smart cities. That's why they show the buildings back here, because it shows this little fire happening right here. This has the ability to actually extinguish the fire as well. And it shows right here, post delivery for mail, packages, parcels, city hall connected to. This is basically based for smart cities, which is where, oh, and it shows right here, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it shows illegal parking monitoring. So they use it like, I think we talked about this the other day, but drones used to actually manage cars that don't have proper registration and stuff like that. You basically replace the toll booth with a drone. So this is the type of stuff they're talking about implementing in Africa. That's why they had the expo in the first place, because they're talking about implementing all this type of stuff. Now you see right here, it says 2022, inner city personal aerial vehicle. Okay. They're talking about building a drone that people can get into.
Scary future ahead of us, man, and a lot of us are not ready for it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, this is
You
the
know,
last one. This drone actually, you see the box under it. So this is the drone I was talking about earlier. It can pick up packages and works in what they call platoons. So in a pandemic crisis like this, these drones would know exactly where they're going through the AI and the 5G in the satellite communication, and drop off all of these packages and then run back to its destination. And it does work. They actually demonstrated it, so it does work. And I think the maximum weight that it can carry for this drone is like 65 pounds. As long as it's not liquid and squishing back and forth. If it's a solid 65 pounds, it can carry it. But yeah, this is sort of stuff that I was over there looking at. Interesting. SSL VPN connects to the server, connects to the router, LTE communications network setup. I don't know, man. Gonna be a lot of sour people out there in the coming months. I mean, they're talking 2022 for personal aerial drones. So
that'll be here before you know it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you might as well say it's already April because it's tomorrow's 31st. In a minute it'll be March 31st. And just imagine if they had all these drones available before the pandemic happened.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man, things are about to accelerate. Like you said, there are going to be a lot of sour people, and I don't know what to tell them. I'm just trying to stay ahead of it myself. You know, technology now is moving so fast, man, till it's becoming cumbersome to stay ahead of. They have so many advancements. But I try my best to make sure I'm not left out the circle because things change so fast and you can get left out. And the last thing you want to do is be broke and homeless and not have any kind of way to make any money. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about the consumers. If they can take us out the picture to make more money, they'll do it in a second.
Well, don't forget that Black people have a spending power of $2 billion.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about that. Let's not buy Jordans and box Chevys and Volvo Chevys and floaters. You know, maybe we can do something there.
Oh man.
Golly. Oh man, I tell you, I get tired of seeing that. I think they done wrecked all the box Chevys and Volvo Chevys down here in South Carolina because you don't see them no more.
They all rusted out. They rusted out.
You know, because I can see now what you were saying.
No, go right ahead and finish.
I can see them getting the $1,200 stimulus check, and I said they intend for you to take this money and to spend it in the neighborhood to boost the economy. What do you tell? I want to ask somebody, what's the first thing you could do with your money?
They got 90 days to spend it. They're not going to be able to sit on it. So,
Jesus Christ, the club gonna be cracking. You know, down here they haven't imposed the order a mandatory they haven't imposed one down here yet. But I hope it doesn't. I'm looking now at CNN. They already got 86 cases in New Orleans, you know. So New Orleans is the next epicenter, as they call it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to be able to manage that.
As soon as Mardi Gras cracks off.
I think it already started, right?
No, Mardi Gras is over. That's why everybody got all the exposure.
Yeah.
Because of Mardi Gras.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I think it was March 17th or something like that. So, but yeah, man, thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if you're not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. Thank you, Dr. D, for joining the panel and being a subscriber. And to Vivian Ibrahim for showing up as well.
It might be. Wait, before we shut down, can I say one last thing?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this. I'm just gonna make it short. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I have a lot more to say, but we can save it for next time. Basically, what you guys do and will do is like it's hard work, right? It's not easy, and it's not easy for us to do the same kind of work. But like I think like every journey in our lives starts with one step. But and the one thing I do want to say, and this is a universal language across the entire globe, especially if you're Black, work twice as hard, get half as fast. And for you guys to have gotten where you have gone, if you were any other culture, you guys would have been CEOs and maybe much bigger. And you've done so much with the handicap, and I know it. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.